tired, don't feel no pain, 'cause I know you don't have what it takes. I'll build an empire from your mistakes. I'll build an empire from your mistakes. So try your love, give me all you got. I only need one shot, so come and get it.
you walk into that house, you're not gonna miss it. The thing I love about iRacing is it's as realistic as the real thing. You get as close to driving a race car as you possibly will in the comfort of your own home. Every trophy ought to set itself apart. Having the trophy, the mass of it, will make it a much more coveted piece.
We've done a lot of awards for the racing industry. I think they knew that we had some background in that, and he wanted somebody to do it that knew about racing.
NASCAR is always fun to work with. They're using lots of colors, really fun logos, lots of material to work with.
On the iRacing trophy, I did a lot of research. Then I went to meet in North Carolina with Dale Jr.
Well, the trophy that I've helped design for this year's champion really leans into the older championship trophy that they used to give to the Cup guys.
Kind of had a smirk on his face, kind of a smile, because he knew what he wanted, and he kind of described it to me.
I had it mapped out in my head, and I was like, I really want to get as close to this as we can get. I really want to lean into what you see here with the wood and the shape and the silhouette, everything about it. I want it to be as close to that as possible.
He wanted to honor his father's racing career and the Winston Cup.
I love being able to tap into history and tap into the uniqueness of the older trophy, the history of NASCAR at the top level.
Doing trophies for NASCAR, you do a lot of research, so you see a lot of trophies, and that one was one that was always had the most history around it.
Because he knew a direction on what he wanted, it was a pretty straightforward process. I mean, I sketched up a pencil sketch while I was sitting there with him, and he was like, that's it.
While the modern trophies are really cool, it's always kind of fun to have something unique about the trophy that makes it special.
Sometimes the designers like me will go out in the field and have some grand vision in their mind.
They make up things that are impossible to make, and then we bring them down to reality.
Depending on the situation, we'll either draw it completely in a 3D format, or we'll draw it in a Photoshop and just kind of a rendering concept.
I'm more involved in the 3D side of it. He'll take his sketch, and then I'll go through it and add the dimensions, get the sizes, put every detail into it.
And that's where the collaboration happens is yeah, that's a great on picture, but here's what we're gonna have to do to actually make it.
Production is always involved from the beginning on it. They are consulting in team meetings on how to put things together, and so it gets engineered right from the beginning.
A lot of the trophies we do will have more acrylics, more colors. This here has got the vintage, more of the walnut look, which I'm a woodworker. I like the look of the wood. I see it from being on paper. From there, we generate what we call cut lists. Gives the detail of whatever it takes to be able to make it stay together.
The opportunity to work on a project that both had the traditional woodwork that I know, and then including the research and development I've done over the years to get us where we are has been pretty fun.
Certain kinds of metal, you have to have your feeds and speeds just right, and that's how fast the bit's turning and how fast it's moving. It's a highly technical machine.
Buffing and polishing of the metal components, plating tanks.
The most challenging aspect was probably figuring out how to do the glass medallion piece on the very top of the cup and trying to secure the cup and go completely through the entire base.
It has a piece of glass that's got a gradient print on it that wouldn't have been an option 10 years ago.
So we're using a lot of the newer technology, the CNCs and stuff, to shape those pieces of metal and make them definitely more modern looking.
Made it simple, but made it look really, really nice.
Ultimately, that trophy is what they were trying to accomplish. Whether it's a NASCAR or even collegiate or whatever sporting events, I mean, they want the trophy at the end of the day. There's a sense of accomplishment and pride that, hey, we made that.
I'm not a real flashy person, but knowing that my knowledge was put to use to make that trophy, it's nice. It's a nice feeling.
I do have a sense of pride, leaning over to my wife and saying, yeah, I worked on that. That's pretty cool.
The finished product is better than I could have imagined. I love being able to tap into history and tap into the uniqueness of the older trophy that they gave the Cup guys, so this landed perfectly. It hit the mark, bullseye.
Tonight on Countdown to Green, presented by Wendy's. We take a look back from all the playoff finale action in Phoenix. We preview tonight's championship finale live from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And we take a look at how you're racing at home. All that and more tonight on Countdown to Green.
'Cause we're invincible.
Hello and welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. This is Countdown to Green and we are here for the championship race. I'm your host, Camille Salazar-Hadaway. Joining me as always, we have Blake McCandless and Alan Cabana. How are you two doing? We are here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And you know what? I did forget to introduce just some people. We have a whole crowd here in the NASCAR Hall of Fame watching live. You hear them.
I love it. We are here to crown a championship, $100,000, that big old Dale Earnhardt Jr. trophy on the line, and the fact that it's finally here, bigger than last year. This event, we first did it last year. We were all here together. It's bigger and better than last year. We've got major drivers coming here on the show, and of course, we're going to crown a champion. I love this place.
It's going to be so fantastic, and what a fitting venue that we get to race at tonight in Homestead-Miami Speedway. Provides a great multi-group challenge for these drivers, and such an amazing venue, I think, to settle it. And again, like you said, decide a life-changing race. This is a life-changing event for all four of these competitors.
It is a life-changing event, and we're seeing that kind of kick in with how our drivers have been taking in the event very focused. But let's first talk about that trophy, the Dale Earnhardt Jr. trophy. It is so beautiful. You gotta love it.
It's old school, right? It looks like, if you were a racing fan from back in the day, that is what the Winston Cup Championship looked like. But the fact that it is modeled after that and has all the champions' name on, the fact that it's so heavy, that is a keeper forever. You compete in this stuff. Imagine being able to take that and put your name on it. That name is forever.
Well, and it is, and I know Casey Kerwin, our champion from last season, has been able to enjoy it. He keeps it in the background of his streams. He makes sure it's very close anytime he's competing. And again, it's a lot to lift up. I mean, it needs some help to do it.
It needs some help to do it, and I feel like our drivers here tonight, they have lots of help with the crowd cheering them on live. Let's talk about the crowd, because there are a few people. I've seen some mascots. Who else have you seen?
Oh, I've seen, we got mascots. We have Sir Purr from the Carolina Panthers. I see Norm from the Charlotte 49ers. There's a lot of students here, a lot of student teams, a lot of eSport gaming teams that are here representing themselves. And I mentioned some of the NASCAR drivers. I think I saw Raja Caruth. I saw Anthony Alfredo, Brad Perez, Ryan Vargas, Kevin Harvick, Willie B, William Byron. They all are scheduled to come. I can't wait to see what happens tonight, because they're all here celebrating the four drivers on the stage.
Well, and we've seen such a big crowd, and I think that largely plays into the fact that we have 3 drivers competing here for the championship tonight that are local to the Charlotte area. One from Gastonia and Garrett Lowe. You have Nick Ottinger that's out of Claremont, and Tucker Minter, who goes to school at Charlotte as well. So there's a lot of local flavor here and a lot of fans who have come out to support their favorite driver on the stage tonight.
A lot of hometown cheer is going to happen tonight. But before we get into what we can anticipate for the race tonight, well, you know how this goes. We got to take a look back at Phoenix.
The field is in control of Nick Ottinger. There is 2 tickets left to the championship on the line. Let's go racing at Phoenix. The 14, when he lost it, it snapped up the hill. There was nowhere for the 97 to go. And again, caution! Yellow flag flies at lap 109. And now that 1.6 second gap that Tucker Minter had built has evaporated. And what happens on pit road? He is going to stay out, and everybody else is coming to pit road. Caution! Kerwin, though, spins and saves the car. It's attempt number 1 at eNASCAR overtime, green flag in the air. It's a good jump for Minter. Kerwin still second, but look on the inside. Here comes Zelensky with help from Wilson, who looks to the inside. Can't block them both. Goes to the inside. Zelensky gives them the bump and run. Caution, flag flies. Tucker Minter will win this Logitech G120 and advance to the championship for
There you can see Tucker Minter locks in his place to the championship by winning a couple of weeks ago at Phoenix. Did it on strategy, stayed out on old tires, but fought tooth and nail through a couple of late restarts to put himself in this championship for. Again, the rest of our drivers that are eliminated, they're still competing for a lot of money tonight. They're competing for bragging rights, obviously, but it is all about our championship for Garrett Lowe, Nick Ottinger, Tucker Minter, and Steven Wilson, all who have taken very unique paths to get here to this spot. But obviously we'll be competing for that $100,000 prize a little bit later on tonight. But Alan, Camille, I know something that we harp on every single time we run this series is relegation. And of course that battle is coming to a T tonight with that top 20, and we have a tie right now for these drivers to try and stay in the series. You have a former series champion just a couple years ago, and Keegan Leahy tied with Tyler Gary. You can see those drivers in green on your screen. They're locked in. They have nothing to worry about. They will be a part of this series next season. Those drivers that have no color around them, well, they have a little bit of work to do tonight, whether they're above or beneath that cut line. If you're in the orange right now, Timmy Holmes on down, guess what? We're going to see you in the Contender Series and hope that you can stay in the top 20.
So much on the line tonight. That's what's so interesting about the Coke Series, is that half the field gets replaced every single year. So much on the line. And the driver's title, not the only one on the line tonight. Don't forget also about the Owners' Championship, the Team Championship. That goes throughout the end of the season. Right now, there are only 2 teams that are able to go in and still win that. That is Stewart-Haas Racing and, of course, Team Dillon. What do we have? 2 of our drivers in the final, in the 4 tonight, going for the 100,000. Also happen to race for Stewart-Haas Racing and Team Dillon Esports. So there's only 2 teams that can get that final trophy, but slots still on the line. Maybe winning the 100,000 and the team trophy would be a great time to do it.
I mean, make it a combo. Why not, right?
This is Countdown to Green presented by Wendy's, by the way.
Exactly, exactly. Well, you know, let's talk about the season because, it has been a crazy season. Lots of great driving. What are your overall thoughts coming out of that season as we're here at the championship leg?
The one thing that has really stuck out to me over past seasons that we've had, and that has been this incredible rookie class that we've seen come into this series. 8 drivers coming into this series, that's a lot. That's more than what we typically see in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, yet we have 4 that are locked into the series next year. 5, I guess, if you want to count Tyler Gary, who's fighting for his life to stay in this series next year. We also have one that's competing on the stage in Tucker Minter to win this championship. And that's not something that typically happens. It takes these drivers a little while through the Road to Pro ladder to be able to get their feet wet, and once they finally get to this level, to be able to compete and be consistent. But I've been so impressed. Jordy Lopez, Tucker Minter, Michael Cozy Jr., Tyler Gary. We have had an incredible rookie class this season that has really come in strong and immediately made an impact in this series.
And the fact that we have all those good rookies just shows the depth of the field and the depth of talent in the iRacing Coca-Cola series. The fact that so much talent now exists, it's crazy to feel how competitive it is. 3 of the 4 competitors tonight weren't on the stage last year. That means You beat Casey Kerwin, last year's champion. You beat Bobby Zielinski, who'd been part of the Final Four here multiple times for years in a row. You beat Keegan Leahy, who's almost fighting for relegation tonight, a former champion. That just shows how deep the talent pool goes when a former champion is fighting for relegation tonight. And the fact that so much new talent is able to come in to this series every year, it just shows every year it gets better and better and harder if you want to win a title.
Well, and that's what it is. It gets harder and harder. You know, I'd like to say, although my picks weren't good, they didn't turn out the way I wanted them. They were good picks, but that's because the competition is tight. It's getting more challenging to really understand who the winner will be of every race, because there is no clear winner. And the competition, although it's tight for these drivers and definitely the pressure is on, it's very entertaining to watch. I have to say I've enjoyed, you know, kind of throwing names out there and hoping that, you know, it goes my way, but then you never know what's going to happen because everyone is practicing to just up their game race after race, and it really shows that this is the year where drivers are really dedicated.
That it is, as we will go ahead and catch up with one of our championship competitors, former series champion. Let's hear from Nick Ottinger and his journey to the championship for tonight.
Looking back at the start of the season, I thought we had a pretty good chance to get to the Final Four, just based off experience, team behind me, and the determination to get here. It's a difficult pathway for sure on transitioning from round of 10 down to 4, but we're able to get here. Yeah, and to be mentally focused in high stakes such as this, you go through basically 8 months of preparation for this moment. So you focus on what you can do daily to improve on that. Unfortunately, it takes 8 months to get there, but to have the strength, day in, day out from your supporters to just make sure they're watching, they're communicating with you. I think at the end of the day, when people are communicating with you, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't have to be even in racing. I just think it's an easy way for you to kind of compare and be ready for the moment. Being the second driver to win multiple championships, I think is, an impact on someone's legacy for sure. And I remember doing a media day saying that would have a lasting impact on legacy because, every year people want to win a championship, and Ray's done it 4 times. He's considered himself, the top sim racer. Others consider that as well. And I think for me, it's about just going in the format we're in. This winning races is difficult because the competition level rose in the past 5 years. And, that's what you look at first. It wins, in my opinion, and, a championship comes along the way. I think it's a great attribute to someone's legacy. For the championship 4, I'm always one that is my own worst critic. All other 3 drivers are very competitive and deserving to be here. Unfortunately, it's not a knock to them. It's just my own, opinion and how I go about things. I want to look at myself as far as my competition. You only beat yourself and you're racing yourself. So, for a good thing for me is I've been in this series for a long time, and I know how to, win races. I know how the team kind of rallies around me and pushes me to win races, and I'm going to use that to my own benefit. They're definitely deserving to be here, but I think you just can't beat yourself.
All right, well, let's talk about Nick Ottinger, right? Like, when you look at his season performance, what do you think about him going into this championship race?
Well, I think Nick has had an interesting path to get here. We're used to seeing Nick Ottinger go out and win 2, 3, 4 races at a time as long as he's been in this series, and that just hasn't necessarily been the case this season. He was the only driver to point his way in, but he did it through incredibly consistent performance. Finally got his win at Dover that locked him into the championship race. We had 3 drivers who won their way to this stage by winning, so winning became very important. But Ottinger, in terms of the 4 that are on stage, I think there's a good argument to make that in terms of overall pace, starting position, he's probably been the best in each of those categories this season. So Nick just been awfully impressive, and his path to get here has been unique because of that.
And let's not forget who his team owner is, William Byron. I spoke to William Byron about Nick Ottinger, and it was funny. You almost apologizing because Willie B was leaning on Nick heavily to help him with his Sunday setups. William Byron's going for a Cup Series championship. He's calling up Nick Ottinger saying, hey, do you have any thoughts on Darlington, on these restarts, all this stuff, almost distracting him from Nick Ottinger's pursuit of a championship here. So he's a little apologetic, but William Byron, obviously it's working. William Byron's got 6 wins in the Cup Series this year. To put the cherry on top of the cake would be a Nick Ottinger championship tonight, make him a multi-time champ.
We're going to have to see if that happens. But speaking of our prospects for the championship title, we also have Garrett Lowe, who, by the way, has barely moved from his rig since we got here. So let's check in with what he had to say about the championship race.
Start of the season, I wanted to be sitting here. I don't think after we left Daytona or Atlanta for that matter, we thought we had a chance to be back in the top 10 in points, but here we are fighting for a championship 18 weeks later. Yeah, mental focus and concentration is really huge. Obviously, like I said, there's a lot riding on this event, not only championship, but to win the race, if you can do that too, it's still really, really cool. And this type of event is really special. It only happens once a year, and only the elite are invited to attend. So for sure, it changes the stakes, but you just have to do the same thing you do for the last 18 races. Pre-race nerves and anxiety, it's going to be there. I think all the drivers are going to deal with that, this type of event. Obviously, Steven's the only one who has any experience racing in this setting, so it'll be challenging for sure. Once we get rolling and get a couple laps in, I feel like I'll be back in the zone and in a point where I can just completely focus on the race. So yeah, I've been in the championship position multiple years. Started in 2019 where I missed the cut by maybe 2-3 points, and it came down to the last race where I was fighting one guy for the final spot. Kind of been the same way ever since. Been fighting for our lives, just hadn't been able to make the championship before. But this year's been our year. We've been on a roll for the last probably 8 races. I think we probably had the best average finish out of the most of the field. And I think it's our year to shine. It's our time to get our championship. Winning this championship would make me feel amazing. It's something that you strive for the day you enter the series, and honestly, before you even enter the series, the championship is the ultimate goal. I remember watching, the races back when it was a PA antifreeze series before it became Coca-Cola, and just watching guys like Alfala and Luza go at it, 16, 17. Those guys were people that I looked up to as far as performance, and eventually chasing them and racing with them. Was something that I found really cool. Working with those guys a couple years later on setups, and obviously having Ray in my corner now at the Legacy Esports is also pretty cool. If I win $100,000, probably pay off the rest of what I have left on school, pay taxes, and then hopefully maybe buy another race car if I can afford that. But yeah, just looking to go racing more, honestly. That's most of what my sim racing earnings go towards. Is just keeping my racing dream alive. There's not really one driver that I'm paying attention to too much. I just know that I have to beat the other 3 at the end of the day, and that's my goal. For all my fans and supporters, I appreciate all your love and support over the last 18 weeks, especially through our trials starting in Nashville and culminating at a playoff spot and eventually a championship 4 position. I appreciate everyone's time and effort that's gone into building our really, really good fast race cars every single week, and just looking forward to seeing that pay off.
All right, well, we are back at the desk, and we have an extra person joining us. There's lots of surprises here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Anthony Alfredo, or Fast Pasta, but Alan, you said you'd like to call him Fast Sauce.
No, the sauce.
Oh, the sauce.
I think it's a little more Gen Z to call him the sauce. We've had this debate before. I don't think I'm going to win because Fast Pasta it is. You're very popular in the iRacing community. What has that done for you personally as a driver on Saturdays and Sundays, and what's that meant to your career?
Oh, it's been huge. Obviously, it's played a pivotal role in my career, coming from sim racing and being able to use it as a legitimate training tool as a driver, but build a brand and be a part of the sim racing community. I think they always have my back, which means a lot to me. And when I get on there, I get to have fun, but I'm ultimately honing my craft and using it to become a better race car driver.
Absolutely. And, one thing I want to ask you about is that your involvement in this series is not just as a driver, as a fan, it's a spotter. You work with Jimmy Mullis week in and week out as a spotter and kind of helping him work through things. I know as a race car driver, you're always looking for a little bit of an advantage, but being able to kind of take a step back and be more of kind of the coach or the crew chief or the spotter, is there anything you kind of can learn from that maybe you'll implement on the Xfinity Series side of things?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked me that, because I found myself noticing a lot of different things from that view. And
like what?
Well, just how the races go, with track position, drivers moving around, how they set up passes and things. You just see it from a different perspective. In the driver's seat, kind of obviously bias out the windshield for the most part, or the battle that's going on around you. But when I'm spotting, I'm paying attention to more people and just Jimmy. I'm looking, multiple cars ahead on restarts, or maybe if we're leading the race out back. And I could actually learn a lot of things that I've implemented, as a driver. But I've also found myself use a lot of phrases and words that my real life spotter Rick Corelli uses, which is pretty funny. So I'll say them and I go, oh, that's kind of funny. I wonder where I got that from. And it's been cool because it's kind of that sim to reality transition we were talking about on the panel earlier. It's not just sim to reality, but it was like reality to sim, right? Like I took what I learned listening to spotters in my career and implemented it, and Jimmy's like, that's the best spotting I've ever had, which was actually pretty cool to hear because it was my first time even spotting anything competitive on iRacing.
Well, what do you make of that sim to reality, reality to sim, when you see people like Keegan Leahy being hired by 23XI as a full-time sim driver? William Byron asking Nick Ottinger for maybe a little advice or for some testing help. What do you make of that, how that's grown since you've started racing on Saturday and Sundays?
It's huge. I think it's proven the opportunity that the platform has to offer. It's not just what you could do from the driver's seat and learn as a driver, but what you can learn as a spotter, a broadcaster, an engineer. There's so many cool factors that make it what it really is. It's not a game, it's a simulation, and I think it gives you that whole perspective and appreciation, because no one's playing Madden and then becomes a quarterback of a Super Bowl team, whereas I was iRacing and then 5 years later is racing the Daytona 500. Like, that's insane. So it's pretty cool to just think about that.
I think there's a couple of iRacers that would agree it's not a game, it's a simulation. There's a ton of people out there that agree with that sentiment. But I wanted to talk about, the kind of being able to build up partnerships through sim racing. I know you're always looking for partners on the real world side of things. And I know a lot of drivers who have turned to sim racing, to iRacing, to kind of give an introduction to many partners. And I know you've done that as well. Kind of talk about that and how that's kind of helped your career.
Yeah, it's been huge. It goes back to earlier, right, how it's provided me an opportunity to build a brand and a community and engage with people in real time. I think live streaming in particular has been big for me, just because I could show who I really am, uncut, unfiltered, for better or worse, and be able to build that community, but also build relationships with different brands and businesses, companies out there that have made that transition from sim to reality with me. So I have some sim racing specifically related partners, but a lot of them have came into the real world with me, and I've even landed some real world partnerships through sim racing. So it's just a full circle thing, right? It's really cool to see it all come together, and just very thankful.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you said you like to be your authentic self when you're creating that content. And you know what? That got me thinking, why don't we just keep you here at the desk for my favorite segment of Countdown to Green presented by Wendy's. This is the Logitech Show Your Rigs, where we get to see your rigs at home. And these are some of probably the best for the season. So we're going to look at some rigs. You're going to give your feedback, and this is going to be intense. So our first one is from James, and wow, DIY.
What do you think? That is innovative for sure. I've never seen the PC out back like that. Pretty impressive. Pretty sleek. It looks like it doesn't take up a lot of space width-wise. It's pretty long, though.
Like, what are you thinking?
I just gotta love ingenuity. There's a lot that goes into this, but obviously this is custom built. Somebody built this with their own hands and their own ideas. So I just love the ingenuity, and again, very unique.
You're looking for those milk crates? Well, just use them to hold your monitor up. I love it. I love it. Thank you, James, for this one. Our next one is from Frank Allen. What are you thinking from this one?
This is the best rig I've ever seen,
gee,
because we are featured there. The Countdown to Green
screenshot.
Yeah, that not the best, but hey, at least they were watching, right, Anthony? And I see a Michael Conti sticker up there. It looks like a little 2. I'm going to assume that's Rusty. He likes his dog. I like the personalization of this rig.
100%. Frank's got it going on. He's even got the 4th monitor up top that doesn't intrude with his view of the sim. He's even got those bezel, I forget what those are called, man. Those are fancy so that you don't see the bezels in the monitors in the corners.
Oh,
so
I like
it's just makes it all one smooth image.
You know what? Smooth image. And you know what? Pretty smooth, Frank, throwing us in there. You got some winners on this side. Our next one is from Raz0. Blake.
You know, I got to say, I love the incorporation here of the easy button because sim racing is anything but easy. But I love the die-cast as well. You got the old Logitech wheel there. It's old tried and true. And definitely somebody that loves road course racing. But again, I love the Staples easy button. That may be the best part of the whole rig.
That's a Ryan Vargas diecast, I believe, who's here tonight. They need an Anthony Alfredo diecast in there.
They do. That would definitely make it a 10 out of 10. Right now it's a 9 out of 10. But no, that's how I started. Logitech wheel and pedal set right there. Fancy.
Well, tag us with your rigs at home. Anthony, we're going to have to get your rig next season in one of these.
Tweet your rig to
using
us.
the hashtag
With sim
eNASCAR. Yes.
There you go.
All right.
Logitech.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to get your insight for that. Now we are going to look at our 3rd driver that is a prospect for the championship, Tucker Minter.
At the start of the year, I really didn't think that I would make it to the Final Four. Obviously, it was a hope that I'd make it to the Final Four, but I remember back at Media Day, I was telling some of the media members that I was just hoping to qualify back into the top 20 and not have to worry about the Contender Series. So to have 2 wins to lock into the playoffs and then win at Phoenix to lock into the championship 4, definitely something that I didn't expect, and I'm just already pretty thrilled with that. Yeah, it's really cool. I feel like I must be the first person that was a spectator for the eNASCAR in-person finale and then is in it the next year and being on stage. I remember, being there, I kind of went into the event not being so sure on if I thought an in-person sim racing event was really that cool or not, but just being there, seeing the trophy, seeing people that I knew from iRacing and seeing the competitors and their families and, just other NASCAR personalities. It was really cool and just showed that, this is something that the series can pull off and is really good for it. So yeah, last year I told myself I want to be back, and I don't know if I really thought I was going to be back the next year, but it's kind of been my goal. And so it's cool to achieve that and hopefully achieve my second goal of winning the 2023 Dale Earnhardt Jr. Cup. I feel pretty good physically, mentally, and emotionally. Obviously, this week is a lot different with not being able to kind of do the same things that you would do before a traditional race, like having a different cadence of when I can practice the afternoon of the race and getting ready for qualifying and things like that. But, in some ways it's good that it's going to be different just to kind of shake things up for everybody. I think it kind of levels the playing field between the 3 other playoff guys and myself, so it'll just be interesting to see how all of us can really kind of figure that out and then still see if we can nail our qualifying laps and perform well in the race. Yeah, I'd say most of the series is about the mental aspect of it. Pretty much everybody in the series is good enough to compete for wins every week. I think just that what it comes down to between the top guys and the guys that run a little bit behind is just where they are with preparing for the race and kind of how they approach the race, whether that's, early incidents or things like that. So I feel like I've been pretty level-headed this year, stayed out of trouble most races, and this race I'm looking forward to staying out of trouble as well. Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to my friends and family. Everybody's support has been just so awesome, really. In the last year, everybody kind of taking notice of the eNASCAR stuff and believing in me and that I can do well. Everybody at work and everybody at Wesley Chapel and my family, of course, just it's been awesome getting texts or phone calls and everything, and I can't thank them enough for all that support.
Made the second round, then I just gave up after Mid-Ohio.
Yeah.
So yeah. Uh-oh.
All right. Well, there you go. You learned a little bit about Tucker.
The rookie.
The rookie that's here. And you know what? We have another surprise here at the desk. Raja Karuth, hello. You were like really
I'm looking at
laser
the screen right
focused on
now.
the screen. You're trying to watch Garrett.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what they're going through right now? I mean, 4 drivers in front of all of us trying to concentrate and win $100,000. You know, as a competitor, what's this like?
I mean, honestly, these guys are so good. They've been locked in all week, and it's nothing different. I think I give props to them for being able to adjust to a new environment, because as a sim racer, you get so used to just being in the comfort of your house and your room or your office, wherever, and not having to deal with any other stimulation, right? And now you're in a social environment with a lot of extra noise and a lot of extra things in your peripherals. So props to them to be up to speed in no time.
You know, that's something I wanted to ask you, because I know that you're on iRacing a lot. You're on the sim, you're on the service, you're running different races all the time. What is kind of that transition period where, you know, you have a weekend where maybe you're running the Truck Series and you're running the Xfinity Series? How quick of a transition is it when you jump back on the rig? Is it a couple laps? Is it a couple minutes? What is it for you?
It depends. So, like, usually if I go from iRacing to real life, I kind of just separate the two. But after I run a real life race and I can just get back on the game, like, it's honestly like pretty similar, like nothing, you know. And some tracks is pretty close, you know. Bristol was pretty good. I'm trying to think, Kansas, Darlington-ish. I think Phoenix is honestly one of the closest tracks, Phoenix and Charlotte, in terms of going back and forth, and Nashville as well. So for going from real life back to the sim has been pretty easy. But it's funny, you know, the start of the weeks they have your first SOF or the highest SOF races, whether it be A-Fix, B-Fix, C-Fix. And I try to get in those races whenever I can, because those are usually, those guys are running a handful and they're really good. And so that helps set my baseline for if I go on the DIL with Chevy that week, or all the pre-race stuff we get going before we go to the racetrack.
Speaking of the real world, you made some news today we have to talk about. You're going to be racing a different car.
Yeah.
The 17
cool.
car
Yeah.
for Hendrick Motorsports, Rick Hendrick. What does that mean to you as a young race car driver? You're racing for Hendrick Motorsports.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome deal. You know, I remember last year at this event not having really a gig for next year and just finishing the ARCA Menard Series and not winning the championship. So to have that deal announced for Phoenix this fall is really special, and I'm ready for that opportunity. But the main deal is these guys. They've got a chance to change their lives and their families' lives on the stages they love. So I'm hoping, me personally, I raced with Garrett Lowe in Legend Cars in 2019 and 2020, and it was fun competing against him. And now he's making some into some real life stuff with late models and stuff like that. So it's great to see him up here, especially with Steven. I'm technically teammates with Steven on Dead Zone, so I'm pulling for those two guys in particular.
Well, I gotta say, it's just nice to see how supportive you are, and that just attests to this community and how supportive they are against, you know, or with one another, unless they're racing for 100,000. So that's a little bit different.
Oh, it's evil. Yeah.
But let's get into it, because we are here at the championship. We'd love to keep you here, Raja, at the desk. It is time for our awards that we like to do here at Countdown to Green, presented by Wendy's. So let's get to it, Alan. This is the award show.
Yeah, the first one is called the Gas Guzzler Award. A little bit dubious of an award because we're looking at how many positions you've gained throughout the year. First up in 4th place was Malik Ray of Jim Beaver Esports. Your boy Malik, he gained 94 positions during the season. So
probably doesn't, because he doesn't qualify that well.
Oh, all right. So I don't know how much of an award this is, because it only gets better or worse depending on your perspective. So Malik was in 4th with 94 positions gained. The next highest goes to 3rd place, goes to our friend Zach Novak, Rise Esports, plus 111 positions throughout the season. That's a lot of passing. I mean, you got to be good in passing and have those skills. So not too bad, 111 positions. 2nd place, Tyler Gary, Kanan Esports, plus 114 throughout the season, leaving only one more spot, the Gas Guzzler of the Year, for most positions gained throughout the season. 2311's Michael Guest. Look at this, Raj.
Yeah, I gotta say,
208 positions. Imagine how poorly he qualified.
Yeah, trust me. For the NIS races that Guest, that Malik do, that Casey does, they always start from the back and just they're by halfway, they're racing for the lead.
They just want to test their skills out and show off, apparently, to everybody.
No question, and just kicking our butts.
I had a race last year at Las Vegas. Michael Guest started from the pits. It went green the entire way, and he still beat me. So that was a little bit of a confident shot right there, but no shocker there for that award. We're going to move on to the Coca-Cola Move of the Race of the year. Of course, we hand out this award after every single race, but there's one moment I think that sticks out more than any other. But these were some of the nominees. Of course, this was Nick Ottinger. We talked about his path here to the championship how it was largely done through consistency, but he was able to finally break through and get his win that was oh so important. When we're going down from 10 to 4 drivers, we have 3 different winners that locked their way in. It was important for him, despite his great run, to be able to get that moment at
Can
Dover.
we talk about this?
Sure, yeah.
Insane. Okay. Yeah.
What do you see?
Bro,
Oh.
me and Malik were actually talking about this. Like, Casey somehow just has this knack of being in the right place at the right time.
I know.
Matter if it's Apix, if it's Coke, if it's just a regular race. This finish at Pocono was pretty awesome, too. Man, I was pulling for Malik to get the win and get into the playoffs, but it was crazy how Guest held on to it. I'm pretty sure there were some different tire strategies on this
for sure
finish as well, but it's a testament to what iRacing's done with the next gen now, just because of how nuts the draft is and how you can run it really close to each other.
Again, so much there for Michael Guest. Wins his first race in his 106th start, but this is the one that topped them all. Jordi Lopez, Michael Conti back at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway, coming through 3 and 4 here. And of course, Conti right here is just fighting for another win. He's looking to try and build up those points that maybe he would have needed to get to this position, but they lock doors, they stay lockstep, and just by a fraction of a nose, Jordi Lopez locks his way into the playoffs as a rookie. Didn't make his way to the championship 4, but nevertheless, an incredible campaign for somebody who's been trying to get to this level for such a long time. But yes, Coca-Cola Move of the Race of the Year, Jordi Lopez.
Got to give Jordi a shout out, man. He's been trying to get into Coke for the last 2 or 3 years, and to get a win in his first season and make a late run is pretty awesome.
Team championship, too, possibly.
Yeah,
perhaps.
Definitely.
Well, let's talk about it. Our next award, our final award, is the best paint scheme. I mean, Ryan.
I don't see just one scheme here, though.
Yeah,
I see a lot.
There's a lot.
Shout out Rise
And we're
Esports.
gonna talk about them, but we gotta say the winner here is definitely Rise Esports and their designers at JDR Graphics and Splash and Go Graphics. Y'all are great. Like, just bringing the best. And of course, we have 36 paint schemes here covering the regional styles of every track we went to and celebrating some of the greatest drivers in the 75-year history of NASCAR. You got some favorites in there?
Oh, yeah, I love the old school aspect. We saw a Gordon, we saw a Rusty Wallace, I think. That's what, maybe a Wood Brothers in there. What do you like, Raj? Jimmy Johnson?
Oh, Jimmy Johnson, yep, obviously the GOAT. But also, I saw the Ryan Newman Army throwback one. That was pretty special, too.
I saw an Andy Santerre one, underrated, but I think that is one
North.
of my,
Wow.
one of my favorite ones.
How do you guys even know what Bush North is? Oh, my goodness.
You got the young guys making you feel old.
I know.
All right, well, let's talk about it because there's one driver we have not talked about tonight, Steven Wilson. And let's check in with what he has to say about the championship.
After last year, I was hoping I would be sitting here. I had a really good year last year, so this year kind of wasn't as good, but we're back in the championship 4, so that was the end goal, and obviously this year we hope the event here goes better than it did last time. With this race being different than the others, I think obviously it's a big mental challenge knowing that there will be a crowd in this one. Obviously the crowd this year is probably usually watching us, but not right in front of us live in the audience, so it's something that I'm used to with last year and how it went, so I'm prepared for that mentally, and I think the speed on the track is good, so I'm fully ready for what's going to happen here this year. My mental concentration definitely is, last year I think what cost me a good chance at the championship. I kind of just made a mental error on pit road, and that was the end of it, so I've been thinking about it since I made it back here this year, and I think my preparation leading up to now has been good, and I'm ready for what the challenges will be. My pre-race routine is usually just, when I'm at home, I usually just make my bed right before I get my camera going, and just kind of doing laps is really all I do. I usually don't do anything special. I wear the same pair of socks every race, which I didn't have last year, so I hope that's the luck I get this year. But yeah, my race routine is just to try to do laps and stay focused for the event. I think out of the 4 drivers that are here, I think Nick is the biggest challenge because he has so many poles on the year, so you know he's going to be starting up front. You're going to have to race him for that top spot at some point. So I think he's definitely a top dog. Plus he's usually good at these types of tracks, but the other 2 are great as well, so it'll definitely be a dogfight. I plan to manage my previous nerves and anxiety by just kind of taking in everything that's around me, really. Kind of not thinking of it as a race and as a business, but like thinking of it as a fun event that I'm here for to be a part of, and something that not everyone obviously gets to take part of in the series. There's only 4 of us, so just kind of take it all in and experience what I can while I'm here. Winning the championship would be awesome. It's obviously everybody's goal in this series. It would be a dream come true, especially with my whole family who will be here at the event. So it'll be fun to celebrate with all those people and then get to have that trophy at home. I think with being here last year at the event, I think I will know the activities on the day of a little bit better than the rest. So I think I'll be better prepared for what to expect, and I'll know the environment, and nothing really should be able to faze me compared to what they might expect.
All right, there you got it. We got our final driver, and we got the little pig.
The good luck pig.
The little pig. I mean, that was definitely a standout last year here as well.
Oh, for sure.
I was a fan. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. We love to see it. And we also like to have more guests here. We have Connor. Hello. Thanks for joining us.
Carson.
Sorry, Carson. I'm so sorry, Carson. Thanks for joining us. NASCAR truck driver, obviously here. We're happy to have you at the desk. It was actually a surprise because you came out to enjoy the show. How is it being here live?
Oh, it's really cool. I mean, this place is obviously got a lot of life to a lot of people. I've never came here. It was last second. I've really good buddies with Casey at Victory Sim, and he's like, hey man, like you need to come out of this deal. And I was like, man, that sounds pretty fun and pretty cool. So it's been crazy to see how many people like that I know and people I raced online with for actually a few years now, and really cool just to see how alive this place is and how invested even just people in our sport are in tonight.
You're another one of those young drivers who have benefited from iRacing as you climb the ladder. You are killing it in the Cup Series, in these for Legacy Motorsports. What has that journey been like from iRacing maybe helping you on the real world side? What's that been like for you personally?
It's been huge. I mean, you think about it, like the guys that play football, right? They can just go outside and throw a football. Racing, it's hard to go at 6 years old. You can't just go outside and get a race car and go test every single day, but you can get online and race, and that's about as close as you're going to get. But you learn real life lessons, especially at a young age. You learn, side drafting now, like it's just getting so much more advanced that you learn the little things. You learn how to run the top, how to run the bottom, restarts, everything. So you could get up to speed pretty quickly. And that's why I think everybody's gotten so good nowadays, regardless if you're going to watch the Legend Cars race at Charlotte or, going to watch on Sunday. Everywhere in between, everybody's gotten so good. There's so much resources down the line that you can get, just for a monthly subscription even. So it's been really cool. It's been helpful for me. I think without iRacing, I wouldn't be up to speed in everything. I would have had the learning lessons in racing. You don't get the opportunities. You don't get long to figure it out anymore unless you have a big pocketbook that you can afford to make those mistakes. So luckily for me, I was ahead of the game a little bit, or could get myself up to speed and a little bit of everything I've drove, and didn't have to have that financial pocketbook to take multiple years. I've been able to have a little bit of success, and I think a lot of that's because of iRacing, just doing it literally day in and day out, and annoying my parents because I'd keep them up all night because I'd be on there all night.
Well, it certainly worked out for you, but talking about your transition, there's been so much talk specifically about your career and the transition from the NASCAR Truck Series to jumping in the Cup Series and immediately running strong and having a significant impact. How has sim racing kind of played into that, or has it eased your transition between those two vehicles at all?
It's been huge. Obviously, the Chevy simulator helps. I've been driving for Trackhouse for over a year and a half before I got to run my Spire Cup debut. So, I mean, I got a lot of laps in the simulator. I know it's not iRacing, but it's still a simulator, right? And I've, had the sim ever since I was about 13th and just had a bunch of laps in it, and that was huge. The data's so close, you can almost teach yourself now. So if I didn't have sim racing and iRacing, I wouldn't be able to get in a cup car and go right away and be as confident as I am in that car.
It's so great to just see your confidence, how you're explaining it. It's all to the sim. So you gotta love it. Carson, thank you so much. It was lovely meeting you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show and the race.
Yeah, it's awesome. Appreciate y'all having me on here last second, but I'm excited to see who's going to get this championship.
Big things coming, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Alan Blake, we are getting closer to the race. The nerves, do you think the nerves are kicking in? I feel like I'm getting some energy from the rigs or where the drivers are.
It's definitely kicking in, and it's something that, when talking to a couple of these guys, last year got here really early and was able to talk to a lot of these drivers before they hopped in for practice, and they were somewhat relaxed and somewhat laid back. But today, seeing some of these guys walk through the crowd as they were taking just a little bit of a break. Again, they've been practicing all afternoon. Garrett Lowe, Tucker Minter, you could tell, these are guys, especially Tucker Minter, he was here last year. He was mingling amongst the crowd. He was a little tense, at least when I saw him a little bit earlier, so the weight of the moment's definitely getting to these drivers.
Yeah, I feel like they're getting just quieter and quieter as we get closer and closer to the race. And you know what? Who decided to join us on the desk? Hello, Kevin Harvick.
Hello.
Our Grand Marshal, one of our Grand Marshals for the night. You also have another very special person joining you for Grand Marshal.
Well, I just hope that Keelan can do as good as his sister did at Bristol. So I know that Piper practiced a lot. I don't think Keelan has practiced at all. So no pressure. And I'm a little bit worried too, because Piper kind of propped me up at Bristol because she was so into everything. So hopefully Keelan carries the same enthusiasm that his sister did, and we can do a good job.
What do you make of the evolution of iRacing that you've seen since maybe the beginning of your career until now, especially with the young drivers like Carson Hocevar, who we just had, who are using sim more and more, teams using sim more and more, as an elder statesman of this sport? What do you make of all that?
Well, I've been a big proponent of the simulator at our organization, just because of the fact that you've had so many tools taken away from you as we've gone through the years, being able to go to the racetrack and do the testing and do the things that it takes in order to make your cars faster and communicate with your team. And I explain it to my guys now as it's more like an exercise. Even if your team doesn't believe in it, or whatever the scenario is at that particular track or whatever it is, it's still an exercise to go to the racetrack and have those racing conversations with your guys to be able to do the things that you do. So for us, as the 4 team goes, we use the simulator a lot. I go pretty much every week. I take the first session in the morning. I don't know if I'm the only one that wakes up that early. I know Ryan Priest wakes up that early, and if he doesn't, he's got a little girl that'll wake him up now. And I know Eric will too. But so anyway, we go every Wednesday in the morning, and it's been a very useful tool at a lot of places for us. So I think it's all in how you approach things, and I think the evolution of sports in general, and I think the evolution of NASCAR racing and any kind of racing in general, there's just a constant evolution of getting better and things changing, and you have to keep up with it.
You definitely do, and Kevin, obviously you've been around Homestead-Miami Speedway a lot. That's where these drivers are competing tonight. You even have a Storthaus Racing competitor here tonight. Go ahead and take us through Homestead-Miami, what these drivers will be going through.
Well, Homestead is it's a very unique racetrack, and on the map it shows a 1.5 mile racetrack. Well, that's not fair, because Homestead is just a racetrack that was originally flat from one side to the other, and they took the corners and they've made progressive banking with them, and since then Homestead has evolved into one of the coolest racetracks that you could drive. And I know I'm not very good on iRacing, and I get embarrassed anytime I get around Keelan or any of the Matt. Busa spends a lot of time with Keelan on the simulator, and every time I get on there I'm like, oh gosh, you guys make it look so easy. But you can run from the bottom to the middle to the top, and you know, in the cup cars, you know, that we race you run right against the wall. And I think you can move around a little bit more in iRacing and be able to have some more lanes a little lower on the racetrack. But it's just a really cool racetrack. The transitions in and out of the corner are much different than a normal mile-and-a-half racetrack. They don't flow into the corner well, ramps up really quick, and same thing up off the corner, because the straightaways are still there from the flat racetrack that it used to originally be.
You mentioned your son Keelan. How integral will sim racing be in his racing career? Because he's off and running already. How important will sim racing be to him?
Well, we have 2 sim rigs that sit in the house, and Keelan's on them every day. So, I think the thing about it is, even with his legend car stuff, he can see the racetracks before he goes. They went to Las Vegas Motor Speedway last week with the legend cars, and he'd never been there. So they went to the bull ring for the first time, and he spent days on the simulator just to get the thing that I like about sim is you can get the surroundings and have the just a visual of what you see and go to the racetrack, because I'm a big visual person. I want to see marks on the wall or speed bumps on the bottom of the racetrack, stuff that I can develop reference points for lift points and turn-in points and things like that. So but he uses it a lot. They used it for the New Hampshire road course before they went up there a couple weeks ago. So he uses it a lot with his legend stuff.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure.
Let me just say that we're in the NASCAR Hall of Fame right now. Kevin Harvick, you are ending your career. 3 years from now, you'll be back here in the NASCAR.
Well, I hope so. And we've been working on a really cool display with the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So I won't spill the beans, but I know they've come and taken a lot of cars out of my shop. So yeah, we're gonna have a fun display here soon.
Well earned. Congratulations on the career.
I appreciate it.
I feel like we're all just in awe with your career, but we're going to keep you here because why not? Right? Why not?
Sounds good to me.
Right? You want to stay here because we got to talk about picks. And Kevin, let me just say, it's been a hard season for picks, I have to say, for myself. Let's take a look at a reminder where our points are right now.
Yeah, I mean, we get competitive here on the show. So every week we make winning picks. I happen to make the winning pick just about every single time, and I'm obliterating them. So you know what that's like. When you go out and you dominate a race sometimes, and the competition is just sad, and they come up with all these excuses for.
We're right here.
Wait a second. Am I going to have to be the referee? I feel like that's what this is becoming. I'm going to be the referee. You guys make the educated picks, and I'm going to be the referee and the trash talking. So.
All right. Well, let's go with our first pick for who's taking the race.
All right. As far as the champion that I think we're going to have here, I think it has played such a big part for this driver that he's had 41 days since he locked in to be able to practice and just focus and run on this race. I'm taking Garrett Lowe today. He's from Charlotte. He has a little bit of fans out here that we can hear out here. And Garrett has had 41 days to lock in, narrow in his focus on this racetrack. I think that experience, the amount of setup work they've been able to do is going to pay dividends. And we know it's not about the points, it's about picking the champion like I did last year, by the way. So I'm taking Garrett Lowe.
I love this.
I won.
It's fantastic.
I won picks last year. I'm just saying. Alan, you go ahead.
Yeah, well, I have Kevin Harvick sitting next to me, a man of vast experience, and that's what I'm going with. I'm going with experience tonight. Only one driver on this stage, Kevin, was here last year to go for the championship in this environment. His name is Steven Wilson. He drives for Stewart-Haas Racing, and he's going to do it tonight. Came close last year at your track, Phoenix. He's going to do it this year at Homestead and get the championship. That's my championship pick. Like that?
I'm going with you.
There you go. All right.
I'm picking the home team.
All right.
So.
Of course.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with Nick Ottinger because, you know what, he's been a favorite of mine throughout last season and this season. So I really do hope he makes it through this time.
Not a bad pick. Not correct, but there are picks right there.
You know
Poor
what?
Tucker's feeling left out.
You know, I wish we could just pick all of them.
Yeah.
But it's the producers that put us in this tough spot week after week. I do also want to point out, congratulations, Alan. I want to officially, egos aside for picks, congratulations on winning. You just beat my total pick points from last year.
Yeah, I mean, I smoked the competition.
Better watch out next year.
Let's be true.
Better watch out next year. But you know what? Let's talk about final thoughts as we get ready for the race that is just ahead. Kevin, why don't you start?
Well, the thing that I find interesting about this whole situation is how you take these 4 guys and you put them in the spotlight right here. And to me, that just makes it feel so much different when you get out of your own environment and you have to do things a little bit differently than what you do every week. I know that they would tell you that it doesn't matter and they can get locked in zone. I don't care. When those lights get turned on and they're shining in your face, it's different. And there's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of pride on the line. There's just so many things that are different. So to me, that's hard because of the fact that you're so far out of your element. Even when we race for the championship, at least I can climb into my car and I know exactly what my environment is going to be like. And I just feel like this is such an interesting situation because of the fact that your environment is so different.
And I'll echo that. In terms of the final thought for the race tonight, I do wonder how the 3 new drivers who haven't experienced it before will take it all in. They have cheering sections here. They have the bright lights. They have the different environment. That's why I'm leaning so much on experience and going into Homestead tonight, because I think that will matter. It's such a different vibe.
I think it'll matter for sure. I think Tucker Minter had a little bit of a head start just being able to be here last year and know what to expect, but Steven Wilson being able to drive. I'm interested to see how Nick Ottinger handles it. He's won a championship. He's won $100,000. You know the prestige that comes along with that. Will he be able to do it when he's not in the comfort of his own home? He's in front of hundreds of people and the lights are on? I guess we'll find out.
It's within reach, and I'm looking forward to this. All the drivers just giving it their all as everyone here in the NASCAR Hall of Fame watches on. Make some noise so everyone could hear you watching at home. You know, the community has really, and time again I say this, the community has really shown their love for the sim, for all the drivers, and honestly, I gotta show some love back. So congrats to everyone watching. We really appreciate all of your support throughout this season. And thank you all for joining us. Kevin, thank you so much. From us here and from our production crew, thank you for watching Countdown to Green presented by Wendy's. Stay tuned because the championship race happens right after the driver parade. $100,000 one of the drivers will be walking home with. Who's it gonna be? Well, you guys stay tuned.
How many days in your life do you remember forever? You see, here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, there's $100,000 on the line. This isn't just another race. It's a head-to-head final confrontation, winner-take-all battle royale. A night the world will remember forever.
One chance for the world, one hope can save us now. Our time for history.
Speaking of history, it really only repeats itself every so often. No other driver has won more than one except for this guy. That's what's at stake tonight. Can the Audi boss accomplish the impossible? Or will one of these drivers add their name to the growing list of champions? Fasten your seatbelts and hold on tight, because tonight we're about to witness history.
We can be heroes. We can be heroes.
The road to $300,000 ends tonight, live for the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Championship 4 finale of the 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. We appreciate all of you tuning in early on Countdown to Green, and we are just minutes away from saying let's go racing for the first time here with $100,000 on the line. And welcome back up to the stage, Steve Letarte, Blake McCandless. You've been hanging out, myself, Evan Pasoko, and Blake, second time we've done this in this setting. I know that's been a theme that you guys have been talking about pre-race, the fact that Stephen Wilson's been here in this environment. It's new for those three. It may be new for a lot of you tuning in at home, so we welcome you there. Over $300,000 total on the line, but tonight is going to be an incredible race.
It is, and you know, we can mention the fact that this is the second time we've come here, but each event that we've been here has felt totally unique. There's a bigger crowd that has shown up this year. We have an entirely almost new slate of drivers, and it's hard to prepare for something like this. It's totally out of the ordinary from what we're used to seeing in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, and it's fun to watch these drivers, Steve, who are so talented, be put up with this pressure, their backs against the wall, how they respond to that, who handles the pressure, how they qualified, how they're going to race. It's certainly going to be something to watch.
I think having this here last year and all of these drivers seeing what that looked like only made it a bigger and perhaps more nervous event this year. You mentioned the crowd's bigger, the atmosphere is bigger, but a great group of 4 drivers. I'm excited for the race. I think it's going to be next to impossible to predict, but a lot of fun to watch and cover.
Well, that's the change here for us. Obviously, last year, Blake, we raced virtually at Phoenix Raceway, even though this event was still held here. We go back to Homestead-Miami Speedway in the sim. No racetrack has held this eNASCAR championship more than Homestead. It's going to be the 11th time, but it's been a couple years. Last time was in 2020, so the on-track challenge is going to be different for these 4 as well.
Well, it's going to be different, but it's also going to be more of the same. We've seen this track before in the series history. We saw it last year leading into the Championship 4. By the way, Stephen Wilson won that. He wants us to remember that. Nick Ottinger won the championship here in 2020. So a ton of experience at this racetrack. It's put on great racing in the real world. iRacing has been no exception. It's going to be a fitting setting to determine who's going to take home life-changing money. I know we said that in the pre-race show, but truly life-changing money. Imagine many of these drivers are 21 years old, being able to take home $100,000. I mean, I was doing the Cars Tour race. We were talking all about $30,000 and how big of a deal that was. This is 3 times that. This is a big pot of money for these drivers.
I should have spent more time practicing. Maybe I had a chance.
Wrong end of this deal.
I know.
And $300,000 total on the line. The $100,000 goes to tonight's champion. Well, let's get you ready for tonight's 18th and final race of 2023 and head to driver introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Championship, live from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. These drivers battled all season long, survived the playoffs, and are just 1 race away from winning $100,000 and the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Trophy. It's time to meet your Championship 4. Driving the number 10 Ford Mustang for Tony Stewart's Stewart Haas Racing, making his return to the NASCAR Hall of Fame from Iowa City, Iowa. Break out the bacon, it's Stephen Wilson. Driving the number 33 Chevrolet Camaro for Austin Dillon's team, Dillon Esports. The rookie from Warrenton, Virginia, Tucker Minter.
I just became a superhero, superhero. Cruise City Walk, baby, I'm a planet saver. Superhero. Bullet speed, I don't bleed, I'm made of steel.
Driving the number 15 Ford Mustang for Jim Beaver Esports from Gastonia, North Carolina, Garrett Lowe. driving the number 25 Chevrolet Camaro for William Byron Esports. He is your 2020 champion from Claremont, North Carolina, the Audi boss himself, Nick Ottinger. Cause this is my moment.
Well, the drivers are in their cars, qualifying already complete. All that's left to do is race. We'll take an opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we'll say let's go racing from Homestead.
I need to try it first.
It's official. Caleb Williams is transferring.
My man.
To Wendy's for the new loaded nacho cheeseburger.
Everybody say nacho! Nacho! It's melty, it's crunchy, and it's queso-y. Easiest choice I've ever made. Of course, he's not the only one transferring. Hey-o! Stable's got room for 2 quarterbacks.
Sorry, and who are you?
Matt Leinart, quarterback, national champion.
Afraid that doesn't ring a bell.
For the full nacho experience from all 4 sides.
Where's the beef?
Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new loaded nacho cheeseburger.
Our family stories are your family stories, except with more confetti.
Relive racing history with a walk along Glory Road, or try your hand at our fan favorite racing simulator or pit crew challenge. Feel the passion and thrill of racing with stories and artifacts from the legends who shaped the sport in the Hall of Honor and Heritage Speedway.
Visit the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte for the ultimate outing. NASCAR Hall of Fame, this is our sport. This is our house.
Pay attention to these faces. Fresh, grizzled, doesn't matter.
Don't get you a checker flag here, man.
They're coming for you. This is the face of hunger, grit, victory.
When will it be his moment?
They'll smile in your face, then take your place. And laugh all the way to victory lane. The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series playoffs.
Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR, and by Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And by Wendy's. When it comes to cheeseburgers, Wendy's heard the assignment. The new loaded nacho cheeseburger has cheese, beef, queso, and even a jalapeno cheddar bun. Now that's cheesy. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
And back live from the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, we are ready to go racing for $100,000. So let's hand things off to tonight's Grand Marshals. It's Keelan and Kevin Harvick.
All right, guys, thanks for having us tonight. All right, Keelan, you ready to get these drivers started?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it. Drivers, start your engines!
Well, let's take a look at our Coca-Cola starting grid. First career pole position for the Williams Esports of Donovan Strauss on the front row with the 10 of Steven Wilson, the highest starter of your championship 4. Row number 2, we'll see Graham Bolin in the Charlotte Phoenix 48 car start to the inside of the Tony Kanaan Esports number 11 of Parker White rolling off from 4th. Row number 3 on the grid, it's Femi Olat again with the Charlotte Phoenix entry. His 43 car going to be alongside the Latardi Sports 36 of Brandon McKissick. They'll start 5th and 6th. Row number 4 on the grid here tonight will go to Michael Cozy Jr. on the inside. That's the Front Row Motorsports 38. And Wyatt Tinsley will roll off to the outside, P8 for the 20 car. And to round out your top 10, Bobby Zelensky was in the Championship 4 here last year. This year, he looks to play spoiler in his Joe Gibbs Racing number 18. He's alongside the second Tony Kanaan entry. That's the 66 of Tyler Gary, Blake.
Pair of drivers back in row 6 that are really looking to have a strong run to end their season, and both Derek Justice on the inside for the Kansas City Pioneers, as well as Joey Brown and FGR Excel. That will be rolling off 11th and 12th respectively. Back in row 7, you'll see 13th and 14th up there. Timmy Holmes for RFK Racing, as well as Michael Conti, who will be making his final eNASCAR start here tonight at Homestead. Back in row 8, you'll see Tucker Minter start at the inside. That is 15th starter for your second championship competitor, as well as Matt Busso. Talked about him a little bit earlier for William Byron's Esports. He will start in the 16th position tonight. Back for 17th is FGR Excel once again, represented by Garrett Maines, as well as Dylan Duvall, teammate to one Steven Wilson, who will be chasing $100,000 tonight. And to round out row number 10, halfway through the field, Kevin King for Junior Motorsports, as well as the other RFK entry in Caden Honeycutt.
That'll take us halfway home, and we jump back to row number 11. 21st tonight will go to Alan Bose in the front row 34, and then Jordy Lopez, the top 10 in every race in the round of 10, missed it by 5 points. His team, Dylan Esports number 3, will start on the outside there. That'll be P22. Number 23 tonight will go to the number 1 at Derek Bordeaux. That's his Elliott Sadler entry. To the outside, the second Jim Beaver car, Garrett Lowe in the 15. He's got some work to do starting tonight in position number 24. Lucky row 13 will see the second Letard Esports entry. That's the 40 of Dylan Alt alongside the Rise Esports, fueled by Sunoco 75 of Zach Novak. Corey Vincent will be on the inside of row number 14. He will bring his number 2 car alongside the second Rise entry. That's the 46 of Jimmy Mullis. And row 15, Casey Kerwin in the number 95, a champion here 1 year ago, next to a man looking for his second championship here tonight. It's the William Byron Esports 25 of Nick Ottinger.
That is a big shock, as Nick Ottinger, the best average start in the series, not having his best qualifying effort tonight. To see Michael Guest, Cody Bias will make up row 16. Just a little further on back. That is not good for Nick Ottinger, as he will have his work cut out for him tonight. Colin Keister, Keegan Leahy will make up row 17. The lights are out on the pace car. We're just about set to go. Daniel Falkingham, Ryan Luza back in row 18 as well. Row 19, you'll see Malik Gray and Ryan Doucette. To round out this field for the final race of 2023, Colin Bowden starting 39th.
That's your field of competitors, Blake. Let's take a quick peek at our Wendy's race analysis. What are we looking for in tonight's race?
Well, we're looking for a lot of strategy here. 3 sets of tires that are available on pit road. Again, 100 laps for these drivers, so that pit window going to look about 53 or 56, can maybe go just over 60, as these drivers are ready to go green, Evan.
Pace car downfield in the hands of Donovan Strauss. Let's go racing at Homestead. It's a good start for pole sitter Donovan Strauss. He has an early race lead. Steven Wilson, leader of the Championship 4, defends P2. A little bit comments out of the top 5, Steve. Plenty of battling, though. We saw 3 wide midfield opening lap of the race. The battle you're looking at there, just tail end of the top 10 with the side-by-side starts.
Well, I think qualifying's going to allow Steven Wilson to kind of settle in, force the other 3 to kind of come chase him down. At this point, there's no reason to push the issue, right? Only a couple laps in, we know we're looking at least 1 pit stop. We have 3 sets of tires. When we put those tires on, could make all the difference. So just kind of take your time and ease in, force these guys back in traffic to make the moves.
this has got to be something that Steven Wilson is just grinning from ear to ear about. Again, he won this race at Homestead last year. He qualified up front, dominated a lot of that race, led 50 of what ended up being 110 laps. So I think Steve made a great point there. There's a little bit of a cushion when you look back to the rest of the Championship 4 competitors. Great qualifying effort by he and his teammates. Was talking to them a little bit earlier on in the day. Was pretty confident about what they had in the race, but obviously qualifying, he and a lot of his technical teammates, Donovan Strauss, Graham Bolin, Parker White being a couple of them, they came with a lot of qualifying speed and netted him a lot of track position. So shout outs to that team. Not just one driver that makes this happen, and this has been a group effort for each of these championship competitors. Usually have about 5 or 10 or so drivers that are helping them out today.
A big part of this event is obviously the preparation. These drivers are used to being at home, and they've done their very best to bring their exact sim rigs here to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, even down to the same side table, right? Try to do everything you can. I saw them breaking out the tape measure. It's off by a quarter inch. Could we adjust the seat? Like, they really want to make it as comfortable as possible. And I think Wilson pretty comfortable right now in that number 2 spot. Both he and Strauss have opened up a little bit of a gap on third on back. You can see that battle for third. Graham Bolin, the bright blue Charlotte Phoenix entry, just ahead of Parker White, Femi Olat. They sit 3, 4, and 5. And there's the update on where your Championship 4 sit. Remember, they'll be highlighted in red on the leaderboard all night long. But just to go through it now, early in this race, Steven Wilson, P2, by far and large, the leader of that group. Tucker Minter, the true rookie, he sits in P12. You got to go down to 24th position till you'll find Garrett Lowe and then Nick Ottinger right behind in 25th spot. So a little bit of work to do for these two. See, we've been so accustomed to the Championship 4 running 1, 2, 3, 4. Last year it took a P2 to take home the championship, but we're used to them all being up front.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised after qualifying. I thought we would see them closer to the front as well. I'm also a little surprised that the leader's still running low on the racetrack. Miami's one of these tracks where you like to see 5 or 7 laps in. It seems like the middle to the top comes in. Only 7 laps on this set of tires, though. Back in the field, even with the top available, everyone's still kind of migrated to the bottom.
Not so much the case for Nick Ottinger, though. I think he's going to go up there and test the waters a little bit. And I think when you're this far back, you kind of have to almost take that approach, right? Just go where they're not, at least at this point, if you're trying to recover. Again, 100 laps, not a lot of time to try to overcome a track position deficit. You can see it's at least paid dividends early, started 30th on back. And again, Nick Ottinger was somebody who won 6 poles. He was the only driver that won multiple poles this season. It has been so strong in qualifying, Steve. I think that's where this style of a championship, the pressure that comes from being on the stage really kicks in, because he hasn't had a qualifying effort near this as they almost go 4 wide off the corner.
Yeah, for sure. Not the qualifying we thought, but this also puts a lot of pressure on the other drivers, the non-championship drivers. The last thing you want to do is affect this. You want to have a good race. We still have relegation. We haven't even talked about that. 20 drivers won't be invited back. They'll have to go to the lower tier series and work their way up. But right here, we're going to be on board with one of the Championship 4, Garrett Lowe. I was going to say out in front was the 25 of Ottinger. Instead, a little bit of a slide there in front of him. I think that's the 14, Joey Brown.
Indeed, that is. Ottinger's been able to get up by just about a couple of cars or so as he's gone from, 34th to already to 20th. So I got to say, Ottinger, at least early on in this race, didn't have the qualifying effort, but he is more than making up for it in the opening 10 laps.
It is different compared to what we saw at Homestead last year. Last year here, Nick Ottinger qualified real good, started in 3rd, trickled down to 19th position. That was a race in which, as we mentioned, Steven Wilson went on to lead 50 laps and win. Last time we were here at Homestead, there's only really one race to look at. That was the only other time we've raced here in this next-gen era, but like we said, we've been racing here at Homestead since the early 2010s. It has been a staple on this calendar, and Garrett Lowe's trying to put some work in. He's in his 5th year in this series, a 3-time race winner, first time in the Championship 4, and he's trying to work the high side right now, but he's in a lot of messy racetrack. That 75 just to the inside of him is Zach Novak.
Now, we were talking earlier about those Rise Esports paint scheme. Another brilliant one tonight is that Tony Stewart paint scheme that Zach Novak's running. They've been bringing some great looking race cars. J.D. Laird, Cosman, and eNASCAR, those designers for those race cars, have been doing a fantastic job all year long.
Well, as we were riding along with Garrett Lowe, what I really liked about it was the quiet hands. He looks relatively comfortable. His hands are very quiet. Just kind of meticulously working around the top. You see Zach Novak in that bright orange 75 on the bottom. and you can't even see the 25 anymore. So you mentioned the positions gained by Ottinger. He continued to kind of just drive away.
Let's a good look at Zach Novak on the inside. Talked about that 75 for a moment. That's the 54. Daniel Falkenham to the middle in a battle for about 23rd spot. So middle of the road, but a critical battle because that 15 to Garrett Lowe is right there. He's pretty committed to the outside of the racetrack right now, either by choice or by convenience. The inside really clogged up. He is still stuck 3 wide. And again, when you start these races in the midfield, you're going to have to get through some of this messy stuff early to look for track position. And with that relegation, those other drivers have no incentive to get out of your way. We make this point week after week that there's no 3-year contracts. There's no sponsor deals to stay in this series. You've got to be top 20 each year or you're out. So that's kind of the battle outside of the big battle, is the fact that everybody else in the field, Steve, they may not be in the championship 4, but they've all got their own critical battle going on.
I have a driver, Dylan Holt. He's currently 3 or 4 spots below that relegation line, so he's trying to have a great night to try to work his way in to be back next year. As we follow this 15 car, not much has changed up front. Donovan Strauss still leads Stephen Wilson by about 0.3 of a second, so still pretty close at first and second.
And you wonder, Blake, we talked about the fact that these races are short, 100 laps. I mean, it's a sprint. It's going to be difficult if you start in the 20s, the 30s to make some moves. It's not letting Nick Ottinger be deterred. Already up to the number 17 spot, and he's still going, but you have to get going.
So the question is, when's the panic set in? Everybody looks very calm because we're 15 laps in, but you see at the top of the screen, right? Wilson second, Minter 12th, I believe it is. Ottinger 17th, Lowe 19th. They're still making move forward, but as we see, as we're on board with Ottinger right here, it's become a little bit tougher to move up. Everyone's tires have worn. We're now to single file, so 16 laps now complete.
Nick Ottinger is such a veteran in this series, Blake. You can take the amount of years that Nick Ottinger's been in this series, gets a little bit loose that time of the exit of 2. He's competing in his 12th season. That's more than his fellow 3 Championship 4 competitors combined. Same thing for race wins. He's got 20 of them. You can compare that as you add them up. They almost got only half of that. So there is so much experience at a Nick Ottinger, but it was a point you touched on right off at the top. He's won a title, not in this setting though. So it is new for him, despite the fact that he's been one of the staples of this series for the last decade.
Well, and how competitive it's been. It's not so common that we see drivers that are capable of winning multiple championships. And Nick Ottinger, the career he's had, but the career he's going to continue to have moving forward. I think he can join the likes of perhaps a Ray Alfala one day and perhaps winning 2, 3, even 4 championships in this series. We get a good look there at 2 close friends right there, Tucker Minter as well as Michael Conti. Of course, it's been well documented that he was not able to make the championship 4, but somebody that is looking to go out on a high note after what has been a long and illustrious championship career for that number 8 car for Junior Motorsports.
When there's the comparison, Michael at home in his usual setup, Tucker here on stage racing for a championship. And you mentioned Michael Conti, worth noting that there's only 3 drivers who have made more than 200 starts in series history. It's Michael Conti, it's Nick Ottinger, and it's Ray Alfala. Michael making his final start here tonight, as 2023 will be it for him for full-time competition.
And I know Conti, he may be getting off the racetrack, but he certainly will not step away from the series. Even talking to some of these drivers that were on this stage today, they see a future for him in this series, whether it's on camera, whether it's behind the scenes. Michael's a brilliant young man, and he has a future involved in this series and growing iRacing and growing sim racing and growing eNASCAR. So hope he sends it out on a good note tonight, but as you can see, trying to be respectful here of Tucker Minter, who's kind of been sitting in the 12th position pretty much since we dropped the green flag. I'm sure hoping that some of the tire saving he's doing will eventually pay off.
Yeah, those top 2 who started good have been exactly where they started. Stephen Wilson still second, Tucker still P12. It's been the other 2, Ottinger as well as Maines, who have been trying to work their way through the field. There's a look off of the back of Stephen Wilson. Again, P2 at the moment. Right now, though, that would be good enough as he runs higher than his fellow 3 Championship 4 competitors. But he did have a bit of a larger gap not that long ago. The top 2 were pulling away a little bit. You can see there in 3rd, Graham Boland, Parker White. They're starting to close in. The 10 car may have some pressure coming soon. That's going to be interesting to see if they've got a little bit of a better race car right now. How aggressive are you going to be on a guy that you know very clearly is the championship leader?
Well, I'm pretty surprised at the speed. They just haven't really slowed down as much as I thought they would have. We're 21 laps in. We're only looking at barely a half a second of fall off. I would have thought the grip would have gone away a little bit more than that at this racetrack. That's probably why they're still around the bottom, and that's why I don't think we're seeing a lot of movement up front. I think if the speed stays the same, the handling doesn't shift as much as well. Normally, one goes with the other. As the grip of the tires go the way, it helps some cars, it hurts others.
We'll talk about strategy if that's the case. I mean, we're kind of coming up on what would be a third of the race. And especially here at Homestead-Miami, assuming we go green the entire way, which hasn't necessarily been the case in a lot of these Cup Series races, but would that be something that if you're a Nick Ottinger who may be slightly falling back after his kind of surge early through the pack, or a Garrett Lowe, is that something that with a little bit less tire fall off, maybe you're thinking instead of stopping it, you're kind of looking at that lap 50 marker or beyond to try and make something happen?
I think that's what the Ottinger and Lowe are going to have to decide, right? I think Wilson's in the position to kind of stick with the plan. Minter's kind of in this awkward middle ground, but you look at Lowe back here, you mentioned it, was moving forward, but now actually under attack, right? We see the 66 right there. Tyler Garrett, I believe, underneath, right? And then the 95 as well. Casey Kerwin right there. With the falling off of pace, I really believe that the 15 is going to have to find something different. So really it's wait to the 1/3 mark, see what Wilson does, maybe just do the opposite.
And we'll see how that dynamic continues to evolve as we are 23 laps now complete so far, clean and green for iRacing's virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. Again, you're looking at the 15 machine of Garrett Lowe, currently the lowest of those championship 4, but all drivers now inside of the top 20, so they have been making that headway. And again, you jump back up to Stephen Wilson in second, still 4/10 off of your pole sitter and current race leader Donovan Strauss. Worth giving him his tip of the cap, first career pole in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. So he's also trying to go out on a positive note and represent his team well. And I mentioned briefly going through the grid, guys, Jordy Lopez had such a great round of 10. He finished 5th, 6th, and 4th over those 3 races.
Not good enough.
Not good enough, only because Stephen Wilson finished 2nd, 2nd, and 6th. He was the only driver to not win his way in with an average finish of a 3 or a 4. I mean, that's how good that 10 car had to be. A person who has won his way into this championship before, now has points his way into this championship before, showing those different ways you can do it.
Well, and I was talking to Jordy Lopez a little bit after that race, and that's the first thing he brought up to me is look how well I performed and the fact that it wasn't good enough. And I think especially in this format, we have a 4-race playoff. We have 3 races in the round of 10. We immediately go to 4. We don't have this cutoff system where we're going from 16 to 12 down to 8 or so. It's not that you just have to survive. You have to be the best of the best. Again, 3 of our 4 competitors here tonight got to this championship race through a win. So Lopez definitely one of the many rookies we've talked about throughout the season who have been so impressive and will be the names that you see, like a Donovan Strauss that's up front right now, or Stephen Wilson a little bit in the future, that I think give them some time. Wouldn't be shocked to see them on this stage either.
Right, to give you an idea of what qualifying's really done, when you look inside the top 10, right, the top 6 have not moved a position. Bobby Zielinski back in 7th is the first guy. He's up a couple positions. We see some other drivers. Tucker Minter now breaks into the top 10. He's up 5 positions. Just not a lot of movement really through the field.
You're pretty steady going until you get back to the midfield where we see a little bit of more of that. I thought that maybe again with those 3rd, 4th place cars closing into Wilson that he might be under fire. That hasn't really been the case. They stay pretty steady at about a 2 to 3 car difference. There's a quick glimpse at your race leader Donovan Strauss, who is just in front, and a live look in at everybody tuning in here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame as well. And there's a good split screen. Wilson in the number 2 spot, top left. Garrett Lowe on the bottom left in P22.
And that's a perfect example why they've brought their rigs, why they have tried to set it up. And I think everything in their direct line of sight is the same. But they have to hear the bleed over of the crowd. Their peripheral vision is much different. They can no longer control kind of the time, temperature, color of the room, the brightness of the room. So a different feel for sure being on stage.
Hearing us talk about them as well may be a factor. I saw a lot of wheel there at a low that last time through. Stephen Wilson, right side of the screen, relatively calm, I'd say. Bit of a stretch. Those 2 drivers situated on the left-hand side of our stage. pointed at each other, but again, the way that I think everybody's got a triple monitor setup here on stage, they can't really see each other at all. So trying to make a bubble with all of these extracurricular circumstances going on. And there is the battle for third in the championship. Garrett Lowe now catching up to Nick Ottinger. That's a battle for the number 20 spot on the racetrack. Garrett going to go down to the inside. Nick keeps it up top, and there is a pass for third in the title. The 15 car, Blake, maybe finally getting that forward movement. Nick Ottinger has dropped 5 spots since he peaked in P17.
Well, I think that was the call for Nick Ottinger. His crew chief, Brandon Hastings, who, by the way, is a mechanic for Tricon Garage, has been helping Nick all this season and does a lot of work for he and Michael Conti and several of the other competitors out here and getting them prepared. But I think that had to be the going for Nick Ottinger. You look at the track position deficit you're in, and we know that we've seen some early cautions in this series a lot this season. So being able to just go get as much track position as possible, don't worry a thing about saving those tires. I imagine that's the call. And with 3 laps away from a third of the distance, I think if you're Nick Ottinger, you're looking for options here.
Yeah, and if you feel everyone's going to do that, you might have to come early. You might not be able to wait all the way to 33. If you think you're going to be on the only one or on the early side, you can wait. But as he continues to lose spots, at some point you have to be on the aggressive side. You're looking at opportunities start to dwindle, even with this much of the race left. So we'll see if Ottinger decides to do something to try to gain an advantage.
It's not been a good couple of laps for him. You saw Daniel Falkenham get through, Michael Guest, Kevin King now also passing the 25 car. Next man up going to be Colin Bowden in P25. So Nick Ottinger started good, and now on the outside, that Logitech G Chevy going the wrong direction. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. So far, it's been all Donovan Strauss for the race lead, and all Steven Wilson in the championship lead so far through 33 laps at Homestead.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, Makoni.
We now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at McConeySetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
It's the wildest ride in racing. Talladega. Too fast since the day it opened. This 200-mile-per-hour, nose-to-tail, 5-wide parade demands absolute perfection.
Winner chicken dinner, baby.
Anything less, you might find yourself right in the middle of the big one.
They make more contact. Big crash. I can't believe what I just saw.
NASCAR playoffs continue at Talladega on NBC.
Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR, and by Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And by Makoni Setup Shop. Makoni Setup Shop is the original iRacing setup shop and is trusted by real-world and virtual professionals to get the job done. Visit McConeySetupShop.com to see why they are the official setup shop of eNASCAR and choose a subscription to save money. Makoni Setup Shop. Our setups, your victories.
We're back live from the NASCAR Hall of Fame and virtually from Homestead-Miami Speedway as the battle continues. We welcome you back into the booth alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko, Blake McCandless, Steve Letarte, and Kevin Harvick joining us back up top. Steve, I think pretty fitting because that's the Stewart-Haas number 10 car in the championship lead right now.
Yeah, so far so good for the SHR car out there. But let's talk about first, before we get to the race, just the atmosphere. I see you and Keelan over there checking it out. This is far from racing in your own home or the comfort of your own rig, and maybe your rig, but being on stage has to be a different feel.
Well, my rig has turned into a parts cart, so every time Keelan breaks something on his by doing something wrong, I have to take it off of mine, and I'm bad at fixing it. But I think that I think these guys have probably settled in, to what they're doing right now. Apparently, with what we're seeing. But the thing that I set up and just watched as we watched the race, every time I run that close to somebody, I usually just run into somebody. At the beginning of the race, I mean, and people don't realize how difficult that is to run side by side and that close and that many cars. And this racetrack is so open to just make decisions as you go into the corner, top, middle, bottom. And, I think these guys just do, every week, they just do an amazing job at what they do.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, your talent on the racetrack, Hall of Fame career, in the virtual world, while it's a lot of the same skill sets, it's not exactly the same, right? You're using your hands, your eyes. You don't really have the feel of the car. I struggle. These guys make it look so easy. It is so difficult. So where would you rate yourself in the virtual world of driving?
I would rate it as retired. Every time I get on there, I have fun and I laugh, and because I'm so bad. And
so is Keelan better?
Keelan's way better. He's on there every day. He spends a lot of time with Matt Busa and those guys on there just making laps, and they've helped him a lot to just understand exactly what he needs to do and how to race. But that was the hard part for me is the fact that you have to use your eyes. My eyes aren't that good. I'd always seat of my pants is always how I've raced, and just the feel of the car, and you get in there and you can't feel anything. And I think that's one thing in our race simulator that we use at Ford is just you can feel some of that tightness in your hands, and you get used to the vision and making the decision with your eyes and your hands and not with the seat of your pants. So it's a much different feel with the way that you drive the car, because my eyes, when I get loose in iRacing, my eyes are behind my hands. So I think that just comes with age.
I have the same problem. My son can stand behind me and tell me, he'll tap me before I can tell I'm actually going to be loose.
Yeah.
You mentioned Matt Busa. You showed me a picture. That's the paint scheme tonight. You got you and Keelan on the side of that car?
Yeah. Apparently Keelan and I are on the side of that car, and Matt let Keelan help him design the car. So that's fun. Matt comes out to some of Keelan's go-kart races when we're up in his neck of the woods and comes down, and we've all become friends, and it's fun to watch him teach as Keelan goes through the iRacing days.
So take me into what these guys are expecting right here. We're about 7 laps from halfway. We'll assume they're going to pit one time right in the middle. Old tires at Miami, trying to get off the banking onto pit road, the opportunity for mistakes. How hard would you rate this pit road entry versus the rest of the circuit?
I would rate this as top 3. Hardest, just because of the banking. And I would say the banking and having worn out tires and trying to get the car stopped. I think that the hard part about coming off the banking here is pit road, and the entry was meant to come through the access road. And the way that this banking is, the apron is dead flat. So when you come off of that banking, the first thing it does is it wants to grab that splitter and pull the car to the left and not brake correctly.
Oh, there's the 97 of Busa with you and Keelan on the side of it. It's a good-looking car. William Byron Esports entry.
Yeah, and that was Keelan and I from when we won the 2014 championship race. All Keelan wanted to do was sit up against the wall and throw rubber down the racetrack. He was way less concerned about the trophy and everything that happened. He thought it was cool that we got to sit against the wall. So he and Matt and his designer designed that car together. So that's pretty cool.
Well, Matt's been around this series for so long, 11 years in this, but also a lifelong fan of yours. So he wanted and worked with Keelan on picking his favorite picture to send you off in style as well and get a good-looking 97 car out there.
Yeah, well, like I say, Matt's become one of our good friends, and I think he puts up with a lot. I'll walk in there sometimes. I'm like, Matt, are you really playing hide and seek? On iRacing with Keelan, and well, sometimes the kids get bored and we just have to do something different. So sometimes I get a little bit. I wonder if I'm not wasting Keelan's not wasting Matt's time, but it is fun to see him teach, and I think as I look at iRacing in general and everything that happens with it, it's been so good for Keelan to be able to see the racetracks. So whether it's in the Legend car, sometimes they'll drive F1 cars at random places or whatever it is. It keeps them turning the steering wheel, and it helps everything that they have and understanding everything that they do.
Well, and this is going to change up the point that we were just talking about with pit stops, because our first caution comes out here at lap number 47. So we'd already seen a couple of cars. You saw Busa coming off of the pit lane, I believe. Some cars already getting that service out of the way. Now it's going to be pit stops under the yellow flag. Maybe that takes some of the risk out of it. There's less to lose.
Less to gain as
yes.
well. So I was actually thinking, if you're Steven Wilson, you love the fact that now it's under yellow, because now there's very little risk for you as long as you just don't do something silly on pit road. But now the rest of your competitors, all that were spotting you 6, 7, 8 positions, they have very little to gain. I assume everyone's just going to take 4 tires. I think we got to look exactly what the yellow was.
Looks like that's the 7 car that we're jumping back with of Malik Ray, racing with the 4 of Ryan Luza, and not quite clear. That's the exit of turn number 2, and it sent that 7 Chevrolet around. So a 2-car incident, nobody else involved. Looked like they were all able to avoid on the apron, so a relatively minor accident brings us under this yellow. And now let's see what those decisions are, and if there is any drama down on the pit lane. You can see it's a pretty empty racetrack. It's wholesale service. That number 1 pit stall paying out well for Donovan Strauss. He's in and out first. Wilson stays P2. That looks like a pretty big pickup, though, for Tucker Minter, maybe creeping up to the 3rd or 4th spot of that group off of pit road.
And I think if you're Minter, that's really the key at this point. Even if you can't get all the way to him, you have to get close enough that you start to fill his mirror, at least hear from his team that he's back there. Right now it's been, I don't want to say a cruise because Wilson's earned that starting spot, but it's been very low pressure, at least from the other 3 championship competitors.
Well, you said low pressure, and I was thinking about it from a crew chief standpoint. Homestead, pit strategy.
This is way better under yellow.
Pretty straightforward.
I know what I'm doing here. This is my kind of spot.
And you know how many tires you're going to put on the car as well.
That's right. There's not a lot to worry about. So 6 races left for you behind the wheel. Then you get to wear one of these headsets all the time. I'm not going to ask about the 6 races. I'll have enough chance to do that on Sundays from now until Phoenix. How about next year? Have you thought about what it's going to be like calling these races out the window, the races you drove in for so many years?
Well, I think the best part for me is I can critique people instead of being critiqued, and
it's way better.
It's way better.
Way better.
Yeah. And I think for me, that competitive mindset of being in the car and trying to make the car fast and trying to communicate with your team and all the things that come with that competitive mindset, being able to let that go is going to be something that I don't even really know how to explain what it's going to feel like, because it's going to be so much different for having something that has consumed your life for 30-some years and now being able to let that go and enjoy the races. I have never really gone to a racetrack and enjoyed the race just because of the cars are fast, the cars are loud, the drivers are cool, and the cars are cool, and being able to watch that and see that, even when I do the Xfinity races, and just I sit up there sometimes and I watch the cars go around, and I look down at the crowd and I look at the magnitude and the size of the racetrack. I'm like, you know what, this is pretty dang cool. And there's a lot of things here that I haven't seen yet because I've been so consumed by the inside of the racetrack and the competition.
Yeah, it is great because you get to be a race fan. And
yes.
It's so much fun. And I will tell you, you'll miss it because I missed it, and Jeff Burton and Dale Jr. And tell one of those races where somebody has a great car and everything goes wrong for them and you can put yourself in their seat, and then you don't miss it as much. Those are the ones you can still leave with a smile.
Now, I will tell you this: we do have a shop full of late model cars, so I think there will be something there to do when I'm ready and rejuvenated to go do that. But I love the teaching aspect of it as well, and being able to help make people better and help teach them about the sport, and looking forward to that part as well.
It's going to be a lot of fun as we see now. We got the lineups here. Now we're going to be basically right at 50 to go when we see the green flag.
Yeah, we'll split this thing right down the middle. It looks like 50 down and 50 to go. Kevin, we'll let you get out of here and enjoy the rest of your night, but we appreciate the time, both getting us started, countdown in here, and we'll let you get back to enjoying the night. We take a quick look to recap where those Championship 4 drivers sit. So Steven Wilson, down pit road second, out in second. That's no change. However, Blake Tucker-Minter did pick up about 3. He's in the top 5 for the first time tonight.
Well, and I think the way this race is going to play out, I really like that last run from Tucker Minter. Stayed there in 12th, saved his tires a little bit, but really started to made up about 6 or 7 spots. Wilson was stagnant. So I think if you're a race fan and you're here at the Hall of Fame, you got something to watch now. Tucker Minter drove up towards the front of the field.
Well, and Kevin mentioned it. Usually it's strategy, on and off pit road. Now the strategy from the driver is how hard do you push right away? Do you try to get track position or do you try to settle in?
We are halfway home in the Homestead 150. Green flag back in the air. It's a good jump. Your pole sitter and race leader Donovan Strauss clear for the race lead. The battle for second. Parker White tried to get on the inside of Wilson. Not going to happen. The Smithfield Ford cleared for second. Inside line there, that 33 car of Tucker Minter, as some cars go down the back straightaway, off of the racing surface for the moment. And now there is a quick caution for the second yellow of the night.
I think I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I believe that was Casey Kerwin. Yes, it was. Your reigning series champion who was caught up there in a wreck. Has had a very consistent season, was obviously a part of the playoffs this year, and has become a mainstay in this series, but going to have some bad luck here tonight.
And it was a year ago. I have a couple cars in this series. I get to cover the series. I'm a fan of the series. But to see Casey win with his family in attendance last year, that really took what we normally see on TV or on our computers or on our iRacing rigs and really brought it home. It was a great moment.
And all those families for your championship 4 here tonight. Again, Casey not in a position to defend his championship. That's been a bit of a theme for the last couple of years through this championship 4. Keegan Leahy went in 2021, not going for the defense in 22. Same with Nick Ottinger when he won in 2020, not coming back. So it goes to show how difficult it is. We'll take a second look at what caused this incident. We're looking in the midfield. Again, it was off at turn number 2. There's the touch. Casey did a good job of getting that thing turned back right to not get into the inside wall and locked it down pretty good to then not go back up into traffic. So it's another simple spin with one car.
Well, I think what Kevin was talking about earlier with the transition kind of off of these corners and how unique it is, that's kind of where everybody funnels there right off the exit of the corner. Look like you're maybe going to be 3 or 4 wide, and just something that not everybody's able to understand until it's just a little bit too late.
So we'll slow things down, again, fresh off of pit road, so no strategy decisions to be made, and the championship 4 can take a deep breath. It's worth noting Tucker Minter scored in P6 now, so it is going to be a 1-spot drop for him on the restart. Stuck on the inside line. It looked like the outside got off a little bit better. Well, the family's excited, and we'll welcome another guest up on stage with us. We talk about vested interest. How about William Byron joining us on the broadcast? You got your driver, Nick Ottinger, out there in your William Byron Esports Chevrolet. Welcome to the booth.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is I'm a little bit nervous.
Right.
It's really a different feeling watching Nick compete here, and he's doing a good job. Tough qualifying, but definitely needed a couple cautions here, and I think his car is strong on the short run. So hopefully see a good restart here.
So, William, I want to ask, we talk a lot about this. We see Stuart Haas is in this. I have a team in this. You have a team in this. Just talk about iRacing, this eNASCAR, this whole series. What is it for you? Because I see your involvement is way more than just your name on the screen. I see you on the broadcast. You come here in person.
Yeah.
What do you love so much about this series?
Yeah, I think it's just the competition. I think I know a lot of these guys. I grew up racing against a lot of them, and so I kind of understand the ins and outs of what they do and the setups and all the work that goes into it. So it is much different than our job. My job a lot of times is to go run the simulator for the team, help adjust the car, but I don't spend hours a week, working on setup. So these guys do a lot of times, and it's amazing what they do with it.
Well, we buried the lead. Congratulations. It was a big weekend. You got your win, moving on in the playoffs. Talladega and the Roval, you get to go have fun. That really probably allows you to really focus on Ottinger tonight.
It does. I'm the most relaxed guy this week, so it's it's been a good couple days. It's been busy, but just celebrating with the guys at Hendrick Motorsports, and big win for them. So it's it definitely makes Talladega the approach a lot different, and just allows me to go through the week a little bit at ease. So it's nice.
Yeah, 300 for Hendrick Motorsports. It's quite outstanding to think it's been that many. I remember chasing 100 and 150, so I know how much that meant to the boss. He loves milestones.
Yeah, he does. I mean, it was a huge win. He kind of put it out there for us at the beginning of the season, and then he really put the pressure on when the playoffs started. He's like, all right, guys, let's get it done. So, yeah, I mean, they give us all the resources to go out there and succeed. So he's an awesome owner.
You even got him in the big hat. The big hat, the William Byron big hat. So just talk about this challenge right here. So now you see Wilson's, he's going to have the front row.
Yeah.
Your man, I was looking at him, looking down here, currently 28th.
Yeah.
I think green flag cycle might have been better, but with 46 to go, if we get a 10, 15, or 20 lap run and then a yellow, I do think it'll be decision time then of who thinks they need tires, or perhaps while staying out will put you at a deficit and maybe the only option to get some clean track.
For sure. I mean, I think that or 2 tires depending on the gap there on pit road. But yeah, I think if you can have a good restart here, the top's usable. It seems like everyone's using kind of the bottom 2 lanes, and definitely is harder on your tires, but I feel like now with it being 46 laps to go, you can definitely move around and not worry about tire wear so much.
So you also get to present the hardware. So the question then is, can you do it with a smile if it isn't Ottinger? You're going to have to just be
I'm
a
going to have to. I'm a competitor, so it's tough. But no, it's just, I mean, it's a huge accomplishment to be in the championship for. That's a huge deal. So he's worked really hard all year, and he's already won 1 championship, so it'd be great to get 2.
A lot of race still to go, but the green flag back in the air. 45 laps left on the board. Once again, good start for the 51. He'll be clear for the lead. Good news for Stephen Wilson. He's clear for second. Minter, meanwhile, 3 wide in a battle for P5.
I really like what Caden Honeycutt's doing, using that 3rd lane, really getting it wound up. While it's more distant, you can see that it has some momentum down the backstretch, and it's 3 wide for, 3, 4, or 5 rows back here. Has most of the playoff drivers involved.
Oh, that's tight.
Oh, I know, and that 36 is Brandon and Letarte entry. I was hoping he got clear there.
And I think you start to see this race play out, right? That we had that 1 caution, and this has kind of been the theme in this series, that one kind of causes another, and we have kind of a stagnant effect. And I think that's why you see so many drivers who weren't willing to go to the top early. They want to get that track position now.
And I think William will tell us that that's not just this series. I think we see a lot of the same on Sunday. That's actually what I love when I cover these, is I see some real similarities between what you guys are doing on Sunday and what these guys do at the virtual tracks.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are just so precise. I feel like that's what iRacing's always helped me with, is just my precision of hitting my line and just being consistent. And I feel like these guys are another step of that. Every time I get on iRacing, I look average compared to these guys, so it's amazing what they do.
Minter now to 3rd, though, so now Stephen Wilson has a championship competitor right behind him with 43 laps to go. That is going to increase the pressure.
First time we've seen that tonight. Minter's P3, the highest he's been. Stephen Wilson has been P2 all night long. So does this force Wilson to be a little bit more aggressive, maybe battle with Strauss for the race lead? He's been able to be on relative kind of cruise control to this point. He is applying pressure to that 51 machine right now, and I'm just kind of watching the intervals, right? Minter's about 0.6 of a second off. When do you start thinking of the 10? Are you looking in front of you or behind you? And can you worry about Minter closing in? Is again, this is the closest we've seen the 10 to the race leader all night long.
If I'm on the radio of the 10, I'm really all week long. I think you need to come here thinking you need to win the race. If you start racing 1 guy or 2 guy, now listen, in the last 5 laps or 8 laps, maybe I'll change that strategy. But with 41 laps to go, you can't worry about what the 33 is doing, William. If I'm the 10, I'm thinking if I win the race, I know the outcome.
Yeah. Well, I think as race car drivers, the best thing you can do is eyes forward. Like, as soon as you start looking in the mirror, you start driving back to them. So I feel like that's the biggest thing, is just he's got to think race lead here and try to get clean air and go from there.
Found your man right here, the 25 of Ottinger. He's cleared a little bit of traffic.
He's in the hornet's nest.
Yeah.
The 4 wide's behind him. That's a good thing, but there's 4 wide in front of him. So he's a bit of a sandwich here. There's the onboard look in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Nick Ottinger, the only driver of these Championship 4 who has won one of these eNASCAR titles before.
But I will say, that's one thing I love about having the championship race at Miami, is with the tires losing grip the way they do, I really think there could be chances with yellows. At certain racetracks, there's really no options. You either have track position or you don't. So if you're Ottinger right here, you just try to get as many positions as you can and see if a yellow in a pit cycle comes your way.
For sure. I think he needs a yellow within a couple laps here to kind of split the strategy.
It's so tough back here. So what about you've been on both sides of this playoff picture. You're going to be trying to continue to race for a championship. How about the mindset of these other drivers? Now, they still have something on the line with relegation in this series, but how nerve-wracking is it when you see somebody like Ottinger around you not to be involved?
Yeah, it's really kind of uncomfortable, because you don't want to be a story, but you've got to race hard for your team. So it's really tough, because you try to give those guys extra room, but at the same time, if your car is fast, you pass them sometimes. So it's definitely kind of an awkward position.
Well, look at some of the other cars in the field here and have talked about Jimmy Mullis, who was in the round of 10, was unable to make it out to the championship 4, but you guys talked about it on Countdown to Green, how much effort the Rise Esports Fueled by Sunoco team has been putting in with the local flavor in their paint schemes all year. And just outside of Miami, nothing better than a hot-looking 46 Jimmy Mullis, trying to end his season on a positive note after that opening round of the playoffs didn't go according to plan.
Not doing too bad of a job. Down a spotter. I mean, a spotter's here in the Hall of Fame, so he isn't able to jump up and give him some of that feedback like he's accustomed to.
Well, that's the thing too, right? A lot of these drivers, they'll have those whole team infrastructures that it's more difficult for us to see, Steve, as opposed to what you guys have on a Sunday where you can hear the crew chief and everybody strategizing. And William, you can speak to this as well. I mean, a lot of the driver radio chatter, it's more than just one or two people on the channel. And I think that also varies driver to driver, how much info you want, how little you want to know, and how much talking you want versus silence.
Have you ever logged on and listened? Because I logged on and listened to one of my teams during this, and it was fascinating to hear all the communication.
Yeah. I mean, with Discord and TeamSpeak and all those things, you can really have as many people as you want. So it's, I found when I raced these iRaces, I just had Nick in my ear because I couldn't do any more than that. It was too much. Like I'm just used to having my crew chief just talk to me or my spotter. So he was a great coach through the pro invitational there a couple years ago.
I know for you and Nick especially, it's not just a relationship where, he's helping you learn the sim. You're able to help him kind of gain speed and go fast. And in terms of all the drivers that are out here at the Hall of Fame, there's probably nobody better than you that could go out and run at this level against many of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to do it full time, I could be okay. I get a chance to race against a lot of these guys in the off season. Really my iRacing season for me starts in November. Yeah. About a week after the season, I'm like, okay, let's go racing. So, and I race on there. I probably race 50 to 60 races in the off season. So I end up racing against Garrett Wilson and a lot of these guys, and they're just so good at tire management, and makes it tough. I have a lot of short run speed, but it makes it tough.
Maybe that's where the difference comes from. I mean, Blake, we've been talking all week about the practice, right? These drivers setting up the rigs in the hotel to try to get acclimated, and then here for hours today practicing. I mean, these drivers can test as much as they want with those teams. Test drivers are a big factor, so it's not just the driver, the front man that goes into this. It's a whole operation with the team.
Yeah, it's a whole operation, and I've actually talked to a few of these guys that now found this real-world career of connecting the virtual world to the real world, right? With you guys using the Chevrolet simulators and other simulators. Where do you stack up on all that? When I talk to someone like Harvick or some of the older drivers, they spend maybe some time in the sim, but not as much. As a younger driver who does a lot of iRacing, how easy is it to kind of go back and forth?
Like everyone really points to me as the guy who drives the most on the sim, and I do with the team. We definitely go in there and work on the setup. I'd say I'm in there 2 hours a week with them. That's it, really. We kind of have a happy hour session that we go through geometry changes, go through spring changes, and try to identify what our setup's going to be. So we use it organically every week, and we have a good system with Chevy to go and scale the tires post-race as well. So actually all the Chevy drivers go in there and post the tires after a race. So it's critical, and Keegan works, I guess, for 2311, so I saw him in Indy, and it's really expanded. So it's crazy what simulation's done to the Cup level.
Well, and do you kind of see that trend somewhat continuing in the future, where you have a Keegan Leahy who comes from a sim racing background, not necessarily a mixed background between real world and sim, that are going to be involved in creating speed for NASCAR Cup Series teams?
I do. I mean, I think that the time that it takes to be in that sim and perfect the tire is huge. So it definitely is. It's critical to our setups, and with not having the practice that we have now, it becomes that much more important.
And when I look at the skill set of these guys, if you need someone to go in and be very concise and specific and repetitious and do it over and over and over again, my inputs would be so far off you couldn't learn anything. These guys can match the lap.
Well, that's the thing, I think, is with sim drivers is matching laps on whether it's Pi data or whatever data we look at, it's matching the lap time, matching the inputs, how much throttle, and whoever can do that the best is going to produce.
Well, and again, I think you look at Steven Wilson here and just how well he's able to hit that seam. If that's the intended line that he's trying to hit, the thousands of laps that these drivers have at this racetrack. I was talking with a team member at Garrett Lowe. He recorded, not just ran, but had over 2,000 laps recorded just for this race alone. I mean, that's an astronomical amount of time. Now, granted, he had a month and a half after being locked in to this race, but that just goes to show you the amount of time. And I think you were right, the precision that these drivers have in this series. It's hard to understand. I know there's a lot of iRacers that look at this series, and it's hard to understand just how skilled these drivers are.
Yeah, honestly, for me, the nerves going into the Pro Invitational races was off the charts. I was shaking. I was like nervous all day. It's crazy.
As we see right here, Minter's falling back to 4th, and we see this a lot where I think he just doesn't quite have the pace. Doing a nice job of protecting his line, but he's stacking cars up behind him. That usually is that's the test out the window. I give it the eye test. When I look out, I don't need timing and scoring. When I see a group of cars, usually that lead car is the one that's lacking the pace, and right now that's what Minter, it doesn't look like his car's driving quite like he wants.
Caden Honeycutt was the one who was able to make the move up to 3rd, so Tucker down to the number 4 spot. Garrett Lowe was just inside of the top 10 for the first time tonight. He's now back in P11, but still knocking on the door to try to close in and make it a battle amongst those drivers inside of the top 5. William, we appreciate the time. I'll let you get back to enjoying things. Steve, inside of 30 to go. We're getting down to crunch time.
Inside of 30 to go. We're going to let William go over there and get his arms warmed up to pick up and deliver that big trophy to the champion.
Alan
don't want
was
him to
worried.
hurt himself in that big monster Dale Earnhardt Jr. trophy. I mean, Dale built the trophy now. That thing that's no joke.
Alan was on his own last year on trophy duty, so he was saying that maybe an extra set of hands would be helpful, so maybe they'll tag team it, but it's a nice looking piece of hardware that you get to take home with you. There's going to be one that stays here in Charlotte that's got all the other prior champs, but one of those is going home with you, so I hope you live close.
And take a second to thank Kevin Harvick for taking the time to come up here. William Byron. Williams in the middle of a playoff battle. I know he's won it advanced, but he is in the heat of his battle. Those two superstars coming here, I think, is just one more thing that sets this kind of atmosphere of what it is. But now we're here for this, right? This is the championship we want to see awarded. 25 to go. Minter finally kind of pried off the bottom very politely and patiently from Graham Boland, but Graham is better and just, I think he needs to go by, or needs to try to go by, try to make a move.
Jump back to where that 25 machine is. It's a little bit of traffic still for Nick Ottinger, P26. He's certainly somebody who needs something to happen to shake this race up. The Michael Conti right in front of him. We mentioned in his final start, both those drivers would love an opportunity to get some strategy in play.
And a yellow is going to be real decision time because when you look at the lap times they're running, best laps, 33 flats for most of them. They've slowed down to like 40s. 0.4 of a second seems like a lot, but it's not if you're mid-pack. If you're the 25 and you decide to stay out and get that track position, how much will clean air help and how many will stay out with you? That's the fear. If a yellow comes out, Steven Wilson decides to pit, he's not guaranteed to only be second because we don't know how many guys may stay on the track.
Well, remember what Tucker Minter was able to do at Phoenix last week. He stayed out on old tires. We were all calling him
doom
crazy
and gloom, yeah,
for making that call and that it was never going to work out. And then he gets a couple of cautions and a couple restarts and was able to do just enough to hang on and make his way to the stage. But I think you're right. If you're Nick Ottinger right now, there's something you got to be doing. There's a rabbit you're going to have to be pulling out of the hat, whether you just decide to pit at the perfect time or stay out or something. There's something drastic that needs to happen here to try and hit a home run and hope for a miracle.
This race very different than its 2022 iteration. Last time we were here at Homestead, 5 yellows, 10 different lead changes, 6 leaders. Tonight it's been the Donovan Strauss and Steven Wilson show.
And Steven Wilson right now is just counting the laps down, 22 to go. He probably feels very, very comfortable. I think he would love to go up and try to win this race. And I said earlier that was his goal, Intel, and I think we're kind of to that Intel situation, right? Minter now is not only in 4th, but he's a solid 2 seconds back. So that's not going to happen in a handful of laps. So now, as much as Wilson would love a win, he's not going to love that more than the championship. So he's found a very comfortable position right here, just 0.3 of a second behind Donovan Strauss. But what a run for Donovan Strauss, right? Yeah. This is a driver that has yet to go to victory lane this year, and to do it in the championship race with all those laps that the other 4 have run, an impressive run so far.
Well, and it's not just those championship drivers that are running the astronomical amount of laps. Again, when I talk about the amount of teammates that these drivers are working with, looking at the top 7 or so, almost all of them, aside from Minter and Honeycutt, come out of the same stable in North Force Racing, and they have all pitched in. You know, this has been a team effort to try and get Steven Wilson in a position to have a fast enough car, and that's the case with everybody. Nick Ottinger working with Matt Busa and Michael Conti. This isn't just a solo effort, but there has been a group effort by so many of these drivers and teams to put a car out there, and right now the NFR group and Steven Wilson have just figured it out qualifying and figured it out in racetrack.
And figured it out the great place to sit. The front row full of 10 T-shirts. Family here to cheer Steven on as we see 20 to go.
Do the laps start to feel longer, Steve, when you're inside of 20 laps to go and you're seemingly in a good spot? Do the corners take longer? When does that set in, if at all?
Well, I think it sets in quicker if he can hear us through his headset.
Right.
You know, I think that's something that may not be helping, but at a certain point, you're going back to the repetition, and it's anything you do in life. If you're prepared and you're practiced, that you can handle those situations. And I think right now, the situation Wilson's in, he's run thousands of laps, thousands of races on iRacing where he's been in a similar position. But yes, I think at a certain point you start to notice every noise, every little bit of light that's flashing, everything that's a little bit different about this setting is starting to kind of creep into the picture now as we're kind of narrowing in on the last 20 laps.
Again, there's the onboard look with Steven Wilson lap after lap on the money. And again, we can see them just to our left, a perspective that the fans here tuning in aren't used to, that we aren't used to, seeing their mannerisms in the car and the wheel input just from 15 feet away.
Listen, at 19th and 20th, and that pass has gone insignificant, right? Because now the 25 of Ottinger has pulled in front of Garrett Lowe on the racetrack. So that, first of all, will help him in the points position. That's from 4th to 3rd, and in position if the yellow does come out, right? Now he would be leading this group, or at least these two cars, on what the option is. It looks like Nick Ottinger has some pace left in his car, but all the way back in 19th, it's going to be too little too late under green. But has he been saving tire hoping for that yellow? Has that been his strategy the whole time, thinking my only option is something different, so I've been back here riding at 80% saving tire?
Well, and that pass for 3rd could be significant in the grand scheme of things as well. Of course, the grand prize tonight, the $100,000, but it's more than $300,000. So 3rd pays out better than P4. I know you don't want to settle, but that might be something you think about next week once the dust has settled, is you got to fight for everything out there on the racetrack. Again, enjoying this long green flag run. It has been all Donovan Strauss, looking to be the 2nd year in a row where a non-championship 4 driver tries to steal the win, but Steven Wilson doing what he needs in P2, guys, and Tucker Minter continues to slide now, that 33 car down to P7.
And I know that a stack of yellows and stacking the field up creates some exciting racing, but it is pretty refreshing at times to kind of just watch them go toe-to-toe, right? Starts with qualifying, and that's what Steven Wilson excelled at with that 2nd place qualifying effort, and he's kind of ran in that little bubble all day long.
Well, Steven Wilson, we talked about the fact that he has been here in the Final Four before. He is the only driver with an active Championship 4 streak, obviously, having competed for the title last year and this year. Is this setting here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame not a factor for him as much as it is for his fellow Championship 3 competitors? As you look over our shoulder to the stage in the center of the hall here, where all 4 of these drivers are 14 laps away from the end of this 2023 season and from the end of this championship. Every moment matters more now than ever.
And there's no more fitting location in my mind, right? The 75 years of NASCAR, the history of NASCAR is represented in this building. And there's many, many, many stars in this building that have been, honored in the hall who couldn't have dreamt of seeing an E version of NASCAR on the racetrack. So I think it's super fitting that this kind of front-facing, forward-facing eNASCAR celebrates its championship race here in the hall.
And who would have thought, Blake, that you've got a Josh Berry late model up there with an iRacing logo on the hood on the same road as you've got Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, and so many more.
Well, and we've had so many cars that have been scanned and put into the sim. I know the 1987 Buick LeSabre that's behind the stage right there of Bobby Allison. That was a Buick that was scanned, laser scanned, and put into the sim itself. We had Dale Earnhardt's 1987 Wrangler Chevrolet that was behind the stage last year, so going to get a little shout out there. 87 car is definitely my favorite on the service, but you're exactly right. To be able to look up and catch that out of the corner of your eye as these drivers are focused, they're zeroed in, they're trying to get the distractions out, but I'm sure the eyes wander a little bit if you're Steven Wilson to kind of take in how cool this is.
No nerves out of Steven Wilson, but a little bit of nerves in the front row. I see some crossed fingers and some shaking back and forth. I think
his good luck charm has made it
good
here, though. The green pig is here, so the good luck charm is in the house, plus the family, of course. And we jump back to that 25 car, and all of a sudden, in quite the battle there was Nick Ottinger. He has checked way out on the Jim Beaver Esports 15 to Garrett Lowe, who's now down in 32nd spot. This is the highest Nick's been all night long. Again, though, under green, coming to 10 laps to go next time by. Doesn't matter if he's saved, still seemingly not enough time left with that gap to make something happen, but it is not going to deter the Logitech G Chevy until the very last moment of this race, but he is now comfortably in third in this championship. Meanwhile, the 33 of Minter down an extra spot to P8, more challengers behind. Bobby Zelensky, Michael Cozy Jr., the next drivers to want to take a crack at that 33 car, so there is a whole lot going on right now around Tucker Minter, who seemingly pushed a little bit more on the beginning of this run to close the gap, got up to third, highest we've seen him all night, opposite of Ottinger now, maybe used it up earlier, hoping to catch a yellow, seemingly regressing at this point.
I think we saw a little bit of a slip up right there just behind, down there in the 36 car. Was really, really loose off of that corner. Is now Minter going to have to block Bobby Zelensky, and you know, at this point, I think if you're Minter, you're just trying to make something happen. You have to look at those spots in front of you. I know it's 9 laps to go, and you may not be able to chase Wilson all the way down on pace, but we know how these races have played out. How many times this season, Evan, have we looked at each other and thought that a race was concluded, pretty much wrapped up, and a late caution comes out and changes absolutely everything? And I know that has to be on Minter's mind. He's got 3 or 4 positions in front of him, puts him right back in the mix of things if he's able to gain that, and perhaps a yellow comes out.
The trophy watch is on, but you're right, Minter needs to be aggressive. You can't kind of back out of it, because if you get that yellow, if an opportunity arises, did you fight hard enough for P8 or do you restart in 10th? That could be a big difference on where that lines you up, and you can see right now he's fighting with the 17 to Caden Honeycutt, trying to go forwards again. Caden in P17, so by no means is the rookie Tucker Minter. We talk about the incredible rookie class this year, 10 true rookies. Tucker the only to make it all the way to the championship 4. We haven't seen a rookie win this championship since you had to be a rookie back in 2010 for the first year of this championship, so it's been an incredible run for him.
I think when you look back at Garrett Lowe back in 35th, I think he's kind of taken the opposite approach of what Ottinger had. I think he's kind of parking the bus, and if we get a yellow, he's probably going to hope to stay out on old tires and maybe make that happen. It'd be really difficult to do so, but I think he's kind of taking the opposite approach. He's like, well, third, second, doesn't really make a difference to me. I'm going to try this if that's my only card to play. So we see Minter still trying to hound Caden Honeycutt, who's having one of his best runs of the season right now for that 7th spot.
Bit of aggression there as Minter was on the bumper of Honeycutt. I think he more so just wants to get by so those other 4 or 5 cars there can't get to him. I think the 33 understanding the assignment that this thing is still far from over, as there are going to be a really long feeling 6 1.5 mile laps still to go for the cars up front, and now maybe 3 wide there for a moment as Minter still trying to get by that 17 of Honeycutt on the inside of the racetrack. 17 going to go down to pinch him in. You just can't get to it right now. This battle ongoing, 5 laps to go this time by.
Minter doing a nice job continuing to work on this 17. I like what you were saying about the Ottinger and the Lowe approach, right? Pushing tires versus saving tires in case a yellow comes out. At this point, that's really their only option. Minter trying very hard to keep these cars behind in case there is a yellow. All these positions will help. He's hoping this beating and banging turns into a caution.
It's looking like they're trying to make one there for a second, but again, I think that's the case. And you know, Garrett Lowe, he was somebody when I walked into the Hall of Fame, he was practicing from the moment that we got here until the moment he had to go over for driver introduction. So perhaps that can be a case that he's trying to learn everything he can, but I think the opposite effect can be true, that if they're trying to figure out that race car, perhaps, you know, it was a little bit too late if they thought they were a little bit too far off the pace, and may have been the case at least these last 5 or so laps of each run. It's been really tough on that 15 car.
Well, here comes the leader, Donovan Strauss, with Steven Wilson in tow. You see the gap, 2.8 seconds back to third. Wilson now just wants to see these laps count down 3 to go this time by.
Trying to finish the deal. It has been such a strong night for Steven Wilson, maybe favored by some to have won this race here at Homestead last year. I'm sure was a big fan even when we were back in Daytona earlier this year that Homestead was put as the championship race. It's a racetrack that he likes. A driver who has been in this series for several years now and has been here to the Championship 4 stage looking to seal the deal.
Well, the driver is cool as a cucumber. The family
is not.
This is the best part. Like I mentioned before with Casey Kerwin, this is what delivered the human element of this eNASCAR series, to see all the family that supports these drivers. They're here in attendance, and now it's under 3 miles for Steven Wilson in the 10 car.
And again, this was such a difficult season for Steven. He won at Atlanta back in our second race, but he had a difficult time getting in the top 20 to be playoff eligible. It was a long road to just be able to use that win to be able to make the playoffs, but it looks like he's going to put it to good use as he'll come around and take the white flag this time by.
Steven Wilson, a 5-time eNASCAR winner, competing in his 3rd season of competition, trying to close the deal. Donovan Strauss, the race leader, who started on a pole position and has sat there all night long, looks to close it out as well as we head to 3 and 4 for the very last time. He's on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen in front of his friends and family at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Donovan Strauss is going to win the race, but Steven Wilson has done it. The 2023 eNASCAR iRacing World Champion, and $100,000 to boot as all those 10 shirts get a front row seat of the celebration. Steven Wilson, guys, is an eNASCAR champion. And I think for the first time tonight, I know he's been calm and cool and collected, maybe the first deep breath we've seen out of him since they were on the grid. Steven Wilson is your 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion. And we talk about the team support and kind of how that leans into the history of this championship as well. It is the first eNASCAR championship also for Stewart-Haas Racing.
And again, Steven Wilson, when he came to this series a couple of years ago, you thought that a moment like this, it was really only a matter of time getting a congratulations there virtually from last year's champion in Casey Kerwin. But it's been somebody that has shown the skill to do it. He's going to burn out with he and his teammates, and Steven Wilson will enjoy his Coca-Cola winning moment.
This winning moment, as it has been all year, brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR, and it is the pride of Iowa City, Steven Wilson, who has come to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and maybe redemption, you can call it, after having been on this stage last year to come to a racetrack and handling the pressure, or maybe many said he'd be the favorite, had to get to this championship 4 by being consistent, didn't win his way into this position, and now the family is going to go up and celebrate. And I think this was easily the best part of last year's celebration, and his dad's in there first. This means so much not only to Steven, but none of this happens and he doesn't get to this level of sim racing, Steve, without the support from everybody else that's joining him on stage right now.
Well, we talked over the whole race of just the amount of time and effort and laps, and all that has to be supported by your friends and family, and they're here in attendance. So wonderful to see.
And Steven Wilson does it the Steven Wilson way. He points his way into this championship 4. Over the course of the last 4 weeks, no driver was better than him. You had your race winners, and then they'd finish in the teens and the 20s. He was good every single week. He'll end it with a second, a sixth, and a second. That is an outstanding average finish. When all these teams ramp up the practice and ramp up the resources to have his best stretch of the season.
Get good sportsmanship there. You can see Nick Ottinger. He knows the magnitude of this moment for Steven Wilson. And again, Steven's just 21 years old. I mean, $100,000. I mean, that's incredible to think that he's taking home that. And great to see him celebrate with his family. It's not always the easiest thing to tell your family, hey, I'm an eNASCAR driver.
Yeah.
And spending all the time that these drivers do to be at this elite level. But it's amazing to see it pay off on this stage and to be able to do it under this much pressure.
We'll have an opportunity to talk with all of your championship competitors. I mean, we've mentioned already, we saw the congratulations come from Nick Ottinger's team. He's a prior champion in this series. Tucker Minter, a rookie. I mean, all of the drivers on the stage here have a long history and a long career still at this eNASCAR level ahead of them. Well, the congratulations will continue, and Steven's going to make his way off stage to our Alan Cavana, who is standing by with the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Trophy, and William Byron.
And yeah, we are standing next to this big, beautiful trophy, and we have one of NASCAR's best, along with one of iRacing's best, the new champion, Steven Wilson. One of NASCAR's best, William Byron, helped present the trophy to Steven Wilson. Lift that on up. You're all there. Just this top part. Yeah, there you go. Big round of applause for Steven Wilson. William Byron, you know what the pursuit of a championship is like. What was it like seeing such a dominant performance? I'm trying to fix that thing. Oh, we'll make sure it's good. You know something about trying to earn a championship and a championship performance. What was it like seeing such a dominant performance tonight from Steven?
Yeah, I mean, Steven's really fast. I've raced against him, so he did a great job and flawless race and qualifying well. So yeah, it was cool to watch. He did really good.
You know the work that goes into it. You're a team owner yourself. One of your drivers was competing tonight. How do you describe a season's effort like this to get a championship?
I mean, it takes everybody. You know, I'm sure he put in 1,000 practice laps, and it takes everyone on the team. So it's pretty special.
Well, we appreciate you being here tonight, all your support of this series as well. But let's go talk to the new champion of the Coca-Cola iRacing series. Come on over, look at your trophy. How does that sound when we call you champion?
Oh, it sounds unbelievable. You know, I can't believe I'm in this situation. I got to thank everybody at Stuart Haas, everybody at Smithfield, everyone here to support me, all the family and friends who came out. They're unbelievable. Wouldn't be able to do any of this without them, and just thank you so much. Obviously, I had to make a mess of it. Got to make it one to remember, but it'll just still feel good no matter what.
Let's talk about the race itself. From a dominating position in terms of the playoff side of things, you were up there, you were in position the entire time. What's that like as a driver, though, as you're wanting those laps to click off and click down?
Yeah, you know, the back-end boys, North Force Racing, to make my setup, Donnie, who ended up actually winning the race, so I want to congratulate him on his first one as well. He put so much work into these sets all year, and so happy to see him get one, but we qualified top 6 as a team, and immediately right then we knew we were good, and just knowing that the closest guy was in 15th, that's obviously a big help, and hoping the race goes green and hoping we don't get crashes, and that's what happened. So we were just really good, and I got to thank those guys for that.
Winning is great. Winning in front of your family must be an unreal feeling. How do you describe that now, knowing they were all here last year, they saw you maybe at your lowest, now they see you at your highest? What's that mean to you?
Yeah, man, you got to have lows to have highs, so it's just happy to have this one, and they are unbelievable. I love them so much. We came all the way here from Iowa, drove here just to see me race on a stage, which is unbelievable, and I love them so much, and this one's for JD.
Any early plans for that $100,000 you now have?
No plans. You know, I'm in college still, so I gotta probably go party this weekend. That'll be goal number 1, but yeah, we'll see what happens down the road.
Well, I hope I get an invite to the party, and I hope you have a trailer for this big trophy to go all the way back to Iowa. Steven Wilson, your 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion.
He adds his name to the growing list, and that is now 5 straight seasons with a first-time champion. Of course, in all of this, more history, Donovan Strauss adds his name to the list of eNASCAR winners, and Blake, you're with him.
Donovan Strauss, again, a winner for the first time. I don't want that to get lost in everything that's going on here, the pomp and circumstance and celebration. Donovan Strauss been knocking on the door of a win for so long. You finally get it done in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, but I know even Steven gave you the shout out there. How special is it not only to get your first eNASCAR win on such a big night, but also to contribute to Steven's performance tonight as well?
So the win for Donovan Strauss adds his name as the 64th different race winner all time in series history. Hard to believe that that's been over the course of now a 14-year history of this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. So Donovan Strauss adds his name to the record books as a first-time winner. And of course, the big story, Stephen Wilson adding his name to the record books as our 2023 champion. We heard his thoughts. We're going to talk with some of these other Championship 4 competitors as the night carries on. Big congratulations in bout for some of our Championship competitors. Garrett Lowe's got a lot of representation here as well with some friends and colleagues from the esports side at his college.
Definitely out of our 4 competitors tonight, being able to come out, qualify up front, he had the race pace and be able to do it the way he did, I think definitely very deserving of the 4 performances we saw tonight.
Well, let's bring in one of our joining us now at the desk, Tucker. We appreciate the time. First off, congratulations for making it to this Championship 4. I know it's not the result that you wanted, but I remember about a year ago, we had a conversation here after the broadcast at the Hall of Fame as you were just a spectator in this one. So to fast forward your rookie season to make it to the Championship 4, just kind of describe what this entire year's been like for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that this time last year I was standing about right where, this desk is and watching this race, and to be on stage competing, that was the goal coming into the year. After qualifying into the Contender Series, I wanted to be here, but I tried to set my goals, realistic. But when I made it to the Final Four, I couldn't stop thinking of the Dale Jr. Cup over there and the honor it'd be to win it. Dale was my favorite driver for, ever. So, it's just still been an awesome year. Just came up a little bit short.
Well, yeah, congratulations. It has been an awesome year. So well done. So well done. Talk about this whole day. I know it's been a great year, but talk about this opportunity to race here at the Hall of Fame in front of a live audience. You and 3 competitors kind of head-to-head for a championship.
Yeah, I mean, today was definitely way different than what we are normally used to. Just getting up earlier, loading in, and getting everything set up, trying to get comfortable, and then just kind of figuring out the cadence of the day and what I needed to do. But once it was race time, it was just like normal, able to just lock in, and focus. I felt like I did a good job of moving forward, maximize the race, and, got Steven's bumper, but they were just too fast to catch. So just, great day overall.
Well, we appreciate the time, Tucker. Again, congratulations on a great season. And if your rookie season is any indication, we'll see you around for quite some time. So we appreciate your time. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Congratulations.
He was right up there on the bumper as Stephen Wilson late in this one. Tucker comes home 7th in the race. That's good enough for 2nd in the championship. That's no slouch either. That's going to be a good payday.
Yeah, but Blake, I think Tucker did what any of the 3 really had. After qualifying, they had such a deficit. He at least put the pressure on. He found his way, as he mentioned, to the rear bumper of the 10 of Wilson. Just too much pace out of the 10 and no mistake. Couldn't push it forward.
Well, again, I think he put it well. He maximized his day, and maybe that came up a little bit short for him, but I think being able to come here and put on a performance that he can be proud of is definitely a part of this as well. And comes home 2nd. I mean, there's definitely some prize money to compete for the rest of these Championship 4, and it comes home with $25,000.
And we'll continue with that theme. We welcome Garrett Lowe up to the desk. Garrett, congratulations on making it to this Championship 4 and for having a good performance there late, obviously. Tell us a little bit about the race, right? We saw, obviously, Steven started up front, and really everybody was playing chase. So what was your strategy in a race at Homestead that maybe didn't have as many yellows as some were expecting, and kind of how that cadence was?
We just didn't qualify well to start. I've never had a qualifying session that just didn't feel anything like testing or practice or anything we ever did. And Tucker and Ottinger also kind of backed that up. So I don't know where we went wrong, but we all did, except for Steven, obviously. But yeah, qualifying was the name of the game. We just couldn't pass in traffic. Whipped the top, passed about 20 cars, and then tires fell off, and there was no getting back once that happened.
Well, so it's a live audience, and you brought a crew, so let me have the story. I see all the shirts. They're cheering. You took a picture. I love the support staff. So who are all of these people that come to support you?
Yeah, so this is the UNC Charlotte 49ers Racing Formula SAE team. We design and compete in Michigan every year. We design a full race car and take it to competition. Last year we placed 9th overall in the world, so we're pretty good. We're going back this year. I'm glad to have them there support me. Unfortunately, the finish doesn't reflect that.
That's pretty awesome. That's great stuff. I've actually been over to y'all's shop. You guys are doing great stuff. So It's great to see all this group here supporting you. And listen, I know it wasn't the race you wanted, but a impressive season to get to this opportunity. And we appreciate covering you all year long. And this was a lot of fun, and good luck next year.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Garrett, for joining us again. Congratulations on a great 2023 campaign, and we'll let you get back to your group and continue, I think, celebrating deservingly a very good 2023 campaign, guys. We'll catch up with Nick Ottinger in a moment. We'll bring him up to the desk next, and we talked about the way that these 4 different drivers kind of interacted with their experience and prior championships and all that, Blake, and I think all of them handled the pressure pretty well. I mean, I haven't heard a word yet, Steve, that, the bright lights got me, right? I mean, once they got in the zone, we talked about trying to isolate and get a little bit of the tunnel vision. Seems like they were pretty hyper-focused on what was going on in the car.
Well, I think we got a little bit of insight there that the qualifying session didn't feel like they had wanted. And I can tell you from 20 years in the real world of trying to set one of these cars up, that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, you guess it's going to be one way, you assume it's going to be one way, and some days it just doesn't line up that way.
We'll bring up to the stage now the 2020 eNASCAR iRacing Series champion, Nick Ottinger. Nick, we appreciate the time. Congrats on making it back to the championship 4, competing at this level. Just kind of tell us a little bit about what your race and what you felt out there.
Yeah, well, I unfortunately started us in the back. Used to nail him on my lap, but par for the course. I went to the top side, about a half a tenth to a tenth better, running the top side, and just went in there, just had no grip and slid to the wall, and just had to kind of back out and run, a lap. So, at the end of the day, Steven and that team deserved to win. They started up front, managed their pace, and unfortunately I had to play the, odds, push early, hope for a caution, and then it just didn't come and just fell to the back. So it wasn't for a lack of effort for our 25 Logitech G team, but, at the end of the day, the right team won and the right driver won. So.
Well, and Nick, I wanted to ask you the difference between winning that championship in 2020. How much different of an experience was it to being at home, being able to execute and take home the championship in that race versus what it was like to compete on stage in front of the crowd we had tonight?
Yeah, I've had that question a couple of times because I had speakers right next to my ear. I'm like, I can hear everything going on. I can hear everything going on, and every pass going on. Steve and you guys talking, and it's fun. 2020 was obviously more comfortable, but here it felt comfortable too because you're just laser focused towards your goal. With you and your team, and we finished third in the standings, but we're coming strong at the end. I think we got to 13th and just ran out of laps. So.
Well, listen, I'm shocked I wasn't talking to you or you weren't over there receiving the trophy because every time I come on at one of these races to cover, it seems like you go to victory lane. I want to talk about your boss. He was here. He was on thing. What's it mean to have someone like William who's here and so involved in all of this? He compliments you a lot when you were helping him in the Pro Invitational. It must mean a lot to see him here supporting you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great honor, honestly, being his sim driver. We built a friendship, built a, relationship to where we can feed off each other. He told me today, like, look, just do your thing. And unfortunately, my thing was the wall, but, sometimes it's just the way it works. But, yeah, he's been a great friend. That's how I look at it. He's been a great friend. That's just you can lean on for advice. And, just boss man put some pressure on me, since he won Sunday. But, happy to, watch that 2014 do good.
All right, well, hey, man, congratulations on a great year. I know today wasn't everything you hoped it would be, but you gave it a great effort and a lot of wins. It's been a great year.
Yeah, appreciate it.
We appreciate the time, Nick. Again, congratulations on a great 2023. I know you've very quickly become one of the veterans and the mentors of this series, so looking forward to what's next for you in 2024. Thanks for sticking by.
Thank you.
Well, that's a chat, guys, with all of our Championship 4 competitors, plus a race winner to boot, and all of a sudden we find ourselves where we were right here about a year ago, another first-time series champion. And we talk about the new blood, Tucker Minter being a rookie here, Steven Wilson, a first-time series champion. Flip side of that is there's a lot of vets who are still proving, despite the fact that there's no contracts, there's relegation, you can still do it. Nick Ottinger's been in this series for 12 years. We talked a lot about Michael Conti tonight as well, who has finished now his final full-time race at an eNASCAR level. Blake, we'll see where he falls into the eNASCAR world beyond this, but the It's Been Great tour has come to an end, and I think we've got him on the radio with you.
All right. Michael Conti, again, the tour has finally ended, and I know this is something that, maybe you can prepare for a little bit, but being able to go through this entire season, what has this experience been like to look back and reflect? And, of course, we've been talking about it over the course of this broadcast as well that perhaps this isn't the end for Michael Conti's involvement in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Yeah, man, it's bittersweet. I mean, it's as cliche as it is to say that. Like, it's 12 years of my life that have come and gone. A long time, but doesn't feel like it. So it was a fantastic year. It's not about the result tonight. It's about a culmination of hard work and extremely fast cars and great results, and I'm proud to go out the way I did. Unfortunately, tonight, I really went out the way I came in, slow, confused, and in the way. I did not wreck, though, so I did a little bit better in my first start. But just super grateful to be in this position to race here competitively for so long. For Junior Motorsports, WR1 Sims, all the supporters over the years, thank them for their backing. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what's next, but we'll see what happens in the off season, and maybe you'll see more of me around in some other capacity next year. We'll see.
All right, Michael, and again, we're just so glad to have him be a part of this series. Michael, I know it's been a wild ride for you. I can remember, again, when I first logged on to iRacing, hearing your name, being a part of this series. It's been a very long journey, and again, congratulations from all of us here. I know we're glad to have you a part of the series, and I know that your involvement is likely not done, so we look forward to seeing you back, and well done on a great career.
Well, of course, Michael, it's been a great career, and you know, Drew and his donuts and all kinds of fun things. I mean, you've seen a lot since, you started this series more than a decade ago, a 2014 championship. I mean, it's been fun to see you grow into the role that you currently have had, and congratulations. We appreciate you being a part of this series. We appreciate Michael for his time, and we'll bring another special guest up to the broadcast booth, Steve Myers with iRacing. You've been all over the place.
Steve laughed when you said special guest.
There's been a lot of Steves tonight. We got Steve up here. Steve's winning a championship, so it's a good night to be a Steve, I would say, and for your case as well, to see the success of this event now for a second consecutive year from where this series started. I know in the forum earlier you were thinking, we've been around for about 11 years, 14 seasons of this thing's done now.
I said 12.
It doesn't feel like that, right? I mean, this thing's come so far thanks to a lot of the help that you guys have done back at the office since 2010.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Steve, Blake, Evan. You guys are like the dream team of sim commentating here, and
I think we're the only team of sim commentating. So one of one, we'll take that. Yeah, 1-1. That makes us the best.
Yeah.
No, you guys really have done a terrific job in the playoffs and the whole season, and it's really. It adds so much to the show to have such professionals like you guys involved. So I really appreciate the work you guys did this year and the effort that you put into to do this. But yes, fantastic night. You know, last year when we were here, I think we were so beyond thrilled with how that went. But the fact is now that this year it's double what we did last year, and it's unbelievable. I'm so happy with the outcome, and that moment, that championship moment at the end, it gets me every time. I get that knot in my throat, you almost get emotional just seeing these guys get emotional and they win this championship, and it does remind you that what we do is special, and we love it.
So I want to talk about the three that didn't win it, because I watched you on stage as soon as it was over, go over and speak to all three of the ones that weren't the champion. We had Garrett Lowe, we had Nick Ottinger, we had Tucker Minter up here, and I will tell you, after the emotional roller coaster they went through, I'm not sure I would have been that composed to give us such a great interview. So what did you say to them, and what was your thoughts? We had four great competitors, and all super professional, even winning and in losing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Last year, Steven was in this position last year, where he finished second last year, and he dominated the race, if I remember correctly, and didn't win it at the end. And I remember I went to him last year, and I said, be proud of what you did. And it's the same I said to the guys this year. Be proud of what you did to get here. You made a lot of people happy with what you've done with representing your teams and your sponsors. You've put all this effort in, and it wasn't for naught. You came to this big stage, and we're in the NASCAR Hall of Fame competing for a NASCAR championship. And yes, in life sometimes you're not going to win, but that doesn't mean you didn't give your all, you didn't put all this maximum effort, and your team didn't put all this effort into the event, and still be proud of that. Because, yes, that moment of disappointment, it hurts. But when you take a moment after that settles down and you go back to your room and you kind of think about the night and everything that happened, I think these guys will be very proud of what they've accomplished. And they've really set themselves up for next year well, because you look at Steven, again, he had that disappointment last year, but he learned what he needed to do to be better, and he came here this year and won a championship.
We learned a lot about esports. There was a great talk in the High Octane Theater here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame that talked a lot about the future of esports and the future of this series. I know that everybody has continued to say every single year that this series has continued to reach new heights and grow, but where do you see that kind of going? As I think it's just an upward trajectory that may not end soon.
Well, yeah, I always like to kind of gauge the crowd when we do some of these things. And what was really interesting to me tonight was the number of Xfinity guys and truck guys and ARCA guys that came here tonight, either because they're fans of competitors in the series, or they even have competitors in the series that are helping them with their own sim work. But I think the fact that the industry came out tonight to be part of this, and they weren't required to be here, I think it just goes to show that, iRacing and sim racing and that line between what's real and what's virtual is really disappearing. And that I think in the future years, as this grows more, I think it's going to be exciting to see who shows up, right? Because I think now, having been around for so long, I mean, this is iRacing's 20th year of being in business. Wow. And, most of these guys have grown up using iRacing as training or getting to learn.
Or they're as old as iRacing.
Yeah. And so I think as the years progress, we're going to see that line continue to just disappear and be blurred from virtual to the real world.
And I think that's a great way to wrap up what has been 2023 and send us off into the season to come, and who knows what's next for the world of eNASCAR, Steve. So we appreciate your time. Thanks for chatting with us. And on behalf of everybody for making this event possible, for Camille and Alan earlier, Steve, Blake for joining myself, we appreciate all of you tuning in at home as well here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame for joining us. And that'll do it. So for one final time here in 2023, we say goodnight from the NASCAR Hall of Fame and a congratulations to Steven Wilson, who is your 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion. Good night.
I'm looking at this new mountain that I'm about to climb. Knock 'em out, one by one, and move down the line. You would think that I'm out my mind, but you ain't ruining my focus. I'm about to go in, you about to see greatness, I know you know this. Everyone's around, ain't nobody about looking at me, you know it's going down. I'm the one that they trying to see, so let's overload them now. I'ma give them what they want, give them what they need, going for the win, then they'll see that I made it. Please believe I'm bringing it home. Let's go! I'm going for the win and I'm bringing it home. I take a look around and see that I'm not alone. Everyone around me yelling, let's go. Let's go. Everyone around me yelling, let's go. Let's go. Going for the win and I'm bringing it home. I take a look around and